Maria Hansen is suing 40-year-old gardener Michael Boren for assaulting her with a garden hose. Maria says the attack occurred when she tried to collect his census form.
Miss Hansen, your complaint is that while you were performing your duties as a census taker, you went to the defendant's home, and while trying to get the information from him that is required in the census, he assaulted you with a garden hose.
Exactly.
When did you go to his house?
May 2nd of last year, and it was a little after 8, maybe 8:15.
In the morning or
in the evening? However, the lights were completely on in the house, so at that point I decided, fine, if they're up, I'll do their census.
How
if
long
not,
had you been working as a census taker?
Well, this was my second day on the job.
Did you receive any training?
Yes, we had about a week's worth of training.
Were you told as part of your training that if someone decides that they don't want to give you the information, you just leave?
No.
What happens if someone does not wish to cooperate with the taking of the census?
Well, if they slam the door, you just leave. However, by law, everybody, including everybody from the president on down in this country, has to complete a census form.
Okay.
He already had received one form in the mail, which he didn't complete.
Who was that, the defendant?
The defendant.
So you ring the bell?
Yes.
And this is a private residence?
Yes. I believe the door was actually open and the TV was on.
What was the next thing that happened?
Well, the defendant got up and he said, and I will quote, well, maybe I shouldn't in court.
No, you have to tell me exactly what he said.
All right. See that sign? It says no soliciting. Get off my porch.
Now, after he made that statement to you, what did you do?
I said, my name is Maria Hansen. I'm here from the census. I'm here to help you complete your census form.
And what did he say?
Get off my porch.
Okay, and so what did you do?
Then, at that point, he walked out of the house.
And you were standing, but you were standing...
I was standing on the porch. And I started to fill out a form that we were given that explains, sorry we missed you. We're census, please call us back. We'll set up a time to interview you, blah, 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 blah.
So he walked out the door, and what did he do?
Well, as I was filling out my form that I intended to leave on the door, but I did not, he was gathering up his garden hose and turning it on.
So
and
what did he
still
do?
screaming obscenities.
Just a minute. So he picked up his garden hose, so it was in the front yard?
Right.
And?
Turned it on. And as I decided to get out of there fast, because it looked like he was going to hose me down, he did.
If he, you, out. Good. All right, Mr. Borum, now let me hear your version of what happened, sir. Look at me, don't look at her.
I'd say closer to 8:30. I'm minding my own business, private residence, watching television, getting a little late.
Look at me.
There was a knock on the door. I don't have a doorbell. I went to the door, opened the door, a tiny bit, screen door closed, and I said, now she might have confused that I called her name. What I did, I told her in no uncertain terms, you're not welcome here. Get off the property. No questions asked. Leave.
Did you give her any opportunity before you slammed the door or told her to get off the property to explain what she was doing there, sir? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
What I'm going to ask you, sir, is unless you have some severe psychiatric history of which I am not aware, why would you not let this lady explain to you? I mean, she doesn't look like a psychotic person. Why wouldn't you let her explain to you what she was doing knocking at your door at 8:30 at night?
I have no soliciting signs.
No, that's not my question. This lady does not look like an axe murderer.
No, ma'am.
Why would you not at least let her explain to you what she was doing there before you told her, on no uncertain terms, according to you, to get off your property?
You're right, ma'am.
Good. Then, since I am right, sir, I know I'm right, and I know that your actions on that day were totally inappropriate. The fact that you may have no solicitation signs on your property doesn't preclude you from being part of the human race. And lady came to your home. She could have just as easily come to your home for the purpose of requesting assistance because somebody was injured. She came to your home not to solicit to sell you a vacuum cleaner or a 36-piece set of Tupperware. She came to your home for the purpose of completing a census, which I am sure you received in the mail and threw away, at least once, because that's why she was responding to your location. Your response to that was to assault her. The law precludes you from doing that. Now, Ms. Hanson,
yes.
Suing the defendant for $5,000, and I think that that's an inappropriate amount.
Okay.
You weren't injured, you were humiliated, and you were frightened.
I did suffer from depression afterwards, and I do have a note from my therapist about that.
How long have you been seeing a therapist?
A couple of years. I've been on antidepressants.
Okay, so you were depressed before, you were depressed after. This certainly didn't help your depression, unless you go home afterwards and say, listen, I just ran into somebody who's even in worse shape than I am, right? You know, which is something that I would have said, yeah, guy's even worse shape than I am because, you know, at least I can hold it together. Well, so you got to have a sense of humor about that. But I believe that your pride, and the fact that he did act in an inappropriate way, there has to be a statement.
Absolutely.
Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Excessive amount of money, but
I had hoped I would have had some kind of apology or even an explanation. I had been told that he's mentally ill.
if I had a dog, I'd sick it on her, but
That's illegal, too. You cannot.
Worker David Wyberny for a series of unpaid loans and for the cost of giving him rides to work. David is countersuing for harassment.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Now, this is case number 157 on the calendar in the matter of Van Blaricom versus Wyberny. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Van Blaricom, it is your claim that you made a series of small loans to the defendant over a 4-month period, and in addition, you want him to reimburse you for expenses when you were driving him from a halfway house where he was semi-incarcerated to his job when he was on probation. He says that you were friends, that there were never any loans, and he is counterclaiming because he says that when he finished his stint in the halfway house and went back to his girlfriend, you began a series of harassing phone calls, visits, etc., and he's counterclaiming in the amount of $3,500 for that harassment. When and where did you meet the defendant?
At my work. And I met him in June of 2000.
And when did you make the first loan to him?
In February of 2001.
What was that loan for, and tell me how it came about.
We were sitting in my car, and he said, can I borrow $60 from you? We had a relationship. I picked him up every night from work. And then
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
And we also met for lunch every day. And he needed some items.
And when was that? On February what?
About February 12th. There's several days.
Well, that's what we're here for. Madam, you come to
Correct.
court. You come to court, you're organized. You can't just come to court and say, I made a series of loans to him. This is the total amount. Thank you very much. My case is now proven.
Correct. How about if I start from the beginning?
No, how about starting where I asked you? When was the first loan that you made to him?
I'm sorry, I don't have the exact dates. I don't have receipts for them. I gave him cash.
I didn't ask you for receipts. I said, when were the loans?
Correct.
I read your complaint very carefully, and you said, when our relationship started, I began writing about it in my journal. I'd write about the normal stuff you write about, including the items that I loaned him.
Correct.
So you say you have a journal.
Okay. Correct, I do. On March 9th, I loaned him $60.
Just a second. What happened to February? February comes before March.
Okay, I'm so sorry. February 6th. He just asked if he could borrow that money to get his car registered. I loaned him $73.
So it's not 60, it's 73.
Correct. On March.
Just a second. Can I see the journal, please?
Sure.
Would it be fair to say, madam, that
Yes,
you
sir.
have no independent recollection of any specific amounts that you gave to him or the circumstances surrounding giving him that money, other than this journal? Would that be fair to say?
That would be fair to say.
Good. I'm just looking through. I'm not reading a diary. I'm looking at what you've highlighted. What you've highlighted, most of it is I just picked him up from work and brought him a pair of Nike pants, but there isn't anything in here that I see so far that talks about, here's one. That looks like March 16th. He borrowed $15. Other than the $15 in the text of your diary, is there any other amount in the text of your diary?
That's all. I wrote it at the back of my journal.
Well, I see what you wrote in the back of your diary. You said, Dave owes me.
And then it has the date. Some of them has the date by them. There's 3/19 and
3/16 was $15, and on 3/19, $7 for junk. And the rest of them, $3 for cigarettes, another $3 for cigarettes, $20 for cigarettes.
And driver's license and registration.
Madam, there is a difference between giving somebody money and making a loan. When you make a loan, you give somebody money, you anticipate that money being returned, you make a payment plan with them, you say, when are you going to return the money?
We
Let's
did
leave
have
the
a
money
payment plan.
What was the payment plan?
He was going to pay me $20 a week when he got out. I'll pay you back. Just keep track of it, and I'll pay you back.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, Your Honor, it doesn't.
Anything sound familiar to you so far?
No, because
Does the fact that she would give you money periodically for little odds and ends, does that sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. So she did give you money. Not a large amount of money. I mean, the whole thing doesn't come to very, very much. It comes to, according to her journal, $288, right?
It could be. I didn't keep track of it.
Well, did you tell her to keep track?
Did I tell her to?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. She knew.
Don't tell me what she knew. What she knew goes to the operation of her mind. You took money from her.
Correct.
Why?
She was giving it.
Well, she wasn't giving it unless you asked her.
But
I need $3 for cigarettes, I need 3 payments.
Okay.
I need to register my car, I need my driver's license.
There was no arrangement to pay any of it back. None.
Why?
Because she knew the situation I was in. I didn't have any money. What started as a friendship, Your Honor, turned into a fatal attraction.
Listen to me. I ain't interested. I'm interested in money. You were in a halfway house because you had been arrested. You had been arrested and convicted, and you were serving time in a halfway house.
Correct.
She was schlepping you to and from the halfway house to your job because you had no means of transportation because you had a suspended license. So far, is that correct?
Once in a while.
Once in a while. It's a lot more than once in a while because I have her diary. That she was doing. That doesn't mean she gets paid for that.
Anybody can write anything.
That's what she... Listen, she took you back and forth. She had conversations with you. That doesn't mean she's going to get any money. Because I don't know if you had an arrangement with regard to paying any of the expenses on the car. You have $288 in cash that you say you gave him, but you're suing him for $950, and the rest of it you claim were miscellaneous expenses, like?
Gas.
Well,
Just
what
gas
kind of
for the car.
What arrangement did you have with him?
The same. It was just the same.
No, I don't believe you. I don't believe that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shauna Van Blaricom says ex-boyfriend David Wyberny owes for loans and rides to work. David says Shauna is a fatal attraction.
I believe you liked him and you picked him up. You drove him where he had to go, but I don't believe that there was any of an arrangement for you to be reimbursed for your gas and your mileage and the wear and tear on your car. Don't believe it. Okay, let me get to the counterclaim. You have a counterclaim for harassment, which far exceeds her claim. You want to tell me about it?
Well, like I said before, what started as a friendship.
Don't tell me what you think it became, sir. Tell me when it started.
Shortly after I left the RCF.
What's RCF?
Residential Corrections Facility.
When was that?
In May.
And had you been seeing her up until that time?
Off and on as friends.
Okay. But
Okay,
she would pick you up, drop you off, occasionally give you cigarette money, then you get out of the RCF.
Correct.
And?
I quit talking with her because
Why is that?
things got a little deeper. She wanted more, and I couldn't give her more.
Well, if you quit speaking to her, you quit speaking to her immediately when you left RCF?
Yeah.
Where did you go to live?
At my house.
Who else lives there?
My girlfriend.
So you went back to your girlfriend immediately.
Right.
So the plaintiff had served her purpose.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I went home on the weekends too, so it wasn't. I was only down at the RCF during the week.
Did you tell her that you were going back to your girlfriend on the weekends when you weren't there?
Yes, she knew I had a girlfriend.
No, don't tell me what she knew.
Yes, I told her that.
That you were going back to your girlfriend on the
Yes.
weekends. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I did. He told me that he was leaving her and after he received some papers because he owed her money. And when he got those papers that he had paid her off, that he was going to be with me and move in with me.
What kind of papers?
It was from a car dealership. He had to pay.
You the girlfriend?
It's in this.
Yes, I am.
Step up. Tell me your last name.
Stalin.
Stalin, what kind of money did he owe you?
He had written a check out on my account for a down payment of a truck.
Yes.
And he had been paying it back, but there was no deal to have it paid back.
Just a second. He wrote a check out on your account?
Mm-hmm.
And he forged your name?
Yes.
Thank you. Sit down. So he told you once he got that debt paid off so that she wouldn't prosecute him, he would leave her and come back to you. Well, there's some substance to that story, sir, because your girlfriend seems to acknowledge that you forged her name to a check. So that's not a story that the plaintiff is making up out of whole cloth. But you got taken. You got had.
I know.
So that's not a lawsuit. You chalk that up to, I got had. Next time I'm going to, if I have to pick somebody up at a halfway house and drive them to their job, that should be my first clue that this wasn't what my mother had in mind when she said Prince Charming is coming along. Do you understand that?
I do.
Okay. All right. So now let's hear about the continued harassment after you went back to your girlfriend.
She would call our phone and hang up. I have police reports here.
I'd like to see them, please.
Of 2 incidents.
I'd like to see them.
And in one of them, the officer advised us to get a restraining order against her because it was getting out of hand. She also called my girlfriend's work. It was harassing her at work to the point where she was trying to get my girlfriend fired from her job and causing problems with my girlfriend's employer.
You lied to the detective who took your initial report, sir. Is that right?
It wasn't a detective. It was a
Police officer. You lied to the police officer who took your initial report. Is that right?
right.
Okay. So let me gather what's been going on. The plaintiff called you several times at your job. One of the things she did when she called you at your job was to play a phone recording of him indicating that he was, in fact, still calling her. She wanted you to know that you were living with, dating, whatever, somebody who was two-timing you as he had two-timed her. That's pretty much what it was. Is that right? And the second phone call was someone who you did not know who it was at the other end because they hung up immediately. You assumed it was her. Is that
It
fair?
happened enough times that yes.
That you assumed it was her. And they told you that you could, in fact, have records pulled, et cetera, but that was never done. Is that right?
No.
Fine. That's what I gather. Your harassment claim is dismissed. As for your claim, madam, I want you to be smart. Chalk it up to experience. Chalk it up to experience. She's with him now.
I understand
You
that.
have to say, good luck,
That's right.
good luck, and I'm out of here.
That's right.
And I'm lucky to be out of here when I am, because if you want somebody with good character, you don't find them in a halfway house. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Don't be so trusting of everyone. Not everyone is good-hearted.
I think she needs to grow up. She's 34 years old and she should have learned a lesson a long time ago.
Fernando Medrano is suing the mother of his child, 29-year-old store manager Florangel Reynoso, for the cost of a TV, a VCR, a trip to Florida, and a loan to fix her car. Florangel is countersuing for the cost of furniture and the cost of a bed for their son.
Come to order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 292 on the calendar in the matter of Medrano versus Reynoso.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Medrano, according to the complaint that I have read, the defendant was your girlfriend. You were together for about 1.5 years, and you have a child together. Is that right?
That's accurate.
How old is your child?
He's 3.
You claim that you made a series of small loans to the defendant, and in addition, she owes you for a VCR and television set or something that you put on your credit card. There was an agreement for her to pay you back. She paid you some, didn't pay the rest. You want the rest. The entire sum that she owes you, according to you, is $500. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant has a counterclaim, which I quite frankly don't understand. You'll explain it to me. All right, so tell me about these loans, sir. When did you make them and what were they for?
Well, there was $189 that was towards a trip to Florida that I had given her in cash. There was another $150 that fixed the car. There was something wrong with the brakes. And there was another $150 that she didn't pay me, refused to pay me for the TV and VCR that I had purchased for her on my credit card.
Oh. $189 trip to Florida. When was that?
That was approximately in July of last year.
Tell me about that.
Well, she said she wanted to go to Florida.
Were you living together at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a joint checking account?
No.
You kept your money separate?
Definitely.
Who paid the rent?
She did.
Whose apartment was it?
It was hers.
Was it furnished when you moved in?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it was her furniture?
Yes.
Who paid the gas and electric?
Yes.
Who?
She did.
What did you pay for?
Well, different things such as the car and expenses, different things.
Well, so far I got the car.
Yeah. Basically the car, Your Honor, to tell you the truth. I maintained it and things like that.
Who bought the car?
It was her car.
You paid for the gas? Mm-hmm. You paid for the insurance?
No.
She paid for the insurance?
Yes.
So you paid for the gas. What else did you pay for?
There were repairs on the...
Well, the repairs, sir, you wanted to pay you back for $150. That was the second loan that you say you made to her.
There was more than one repair. Obviously, a car, needs repairs.
Oh, that was your capital
maintenance.
contribution, taking care of the car, is that right? To this household?
Yes.
Perfect. Take care of it. So I've just knocked out your car repair loan. So let me hear about the trip to Florida. She wanted to go to Florida and?
And she spoke to me about it, and...
What did she say to you, and what did you say to her?
She said, well, I want to go to Florida, and I think that you should pay for it. And I was like, you know what? I was like, fine, that's great.
Great. So we just knock off the trip to Florida.
Yeah.
And I think you should pay for it, too.
That's great, but,
Good. Okay, that's great. Wonderful. Perfect. Now, $150 was for what?
Was for
VCR.
the television VCR.
And how much was the whole television VCR?
$439. However, we agreed that she would give me $500.
Why is that?
That's what she agreed. I didn't ask it for her.
So she agreed to give you a tip.
If you want to say that, yeah. If you'd like to say that.
A tip of $60. Okay. How much is left to pay on the TV VCR?
Approximately $150.
Show me. You kept the VCR, Miss Reynoso, is that right?
Yes.
And the TV?
Yes.
We'll get to you in a second. Oh. And you made some payments on this, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Tell me how come you stopped paying?
Well, he has a court order to pay me child support, which he hasn't done in a year.
Inaccurate.
When did you start paying child support, sir?
She had it on ever since I could remember, to be honest with you.
What do you mean, ever since?
Since the 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 years.
You mean while you were living together, you were paying child support?
I was trying to because I just graduated school and everything. Well,
I don't care trying. I want to know when you started to pay child support, sir.
I can't give you an exact date, Your Honor.
How much child support do you pay?
It's $60 a week, and I was paying that in sporadic payments because I was also paying for school.
So is it fair to say that you didn't make all your child support payments?
Yes.
Was it fair to say that, let's say you missed 3 payments?
More than that, Your Honor.
More than that?
Yes.
At least $150 worth of payments?
Yes. But the entire thing was I was going to take the money and send it back to her. So she would receive the money and it would bring down the arrears that I'm currently in.
When were you going to do that?
When I received the money.
And where were you going to get the money from?
From her.
For what?
For the $150 that she owed me. And
get a life. I have no idea what precipitated your bringing this lawsuit, sir. No idea at all. Somebody that owes a substantial amount of money in child support doesn't futz around with $150 that's owed on a TV VCR. You'd find a rock to crawl under someplace, but you don't come out in the open and go into a court to sue for $150 to fix a car that was your sole responsibility while you lived together, $189 for a Florida trip that was clearly a gift when you made it to her.
She spent with her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, I should say.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Fernando Medrano says the mother of his child, Florangel Reynoso, owes for a series of loans. Florangel says Fernando hasn't paid child support in over a year.
All right. Now, Ms. Reynoso, I'm going to hear about your counterclaim now. What's your counterclaim for?
$2,400.
For what?
when we were living together, we made an agreement that we were going to get new furniture. So I had asked him if it was a good time. My cousin wanted to buy the furniture off me, and if it was a good time to sell it to her. And I asked him quite a few times, and I said, "Are you sure you're going to get me new furniture?" And he said yes. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. That never happened. He left in August, and my living room was empty. I had no furniture.
Get it back from your cousin. What else?
Then I asked him a week ago, 2 weeks ago, to get his son a bed because he's getting too big for the crib, and he refused.
So that's not a lawsuit. You asked him to get a bed, he said no. That's not a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
And that was it. And just clothes that I bought for Jaden since he doesn't help me in anything. But that was it.
Okay, so you know that that's all nonsense. Perfect. So I don't even have to address the fact that your counterclaim is nonsense. And I don't have to address the fact that your claim is nonsense. So your claim is nonsense, you get nothing, you get nothing. What you do get from me is a lecture. How old are you?
29.
And you?
23.
You have one child?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
Just one.
What kind of work do you do?
Substitute teacher.
Do you have a permanent teaching license?
No, that's not my field.
What's your field?
Criminal justice.
Shh. What do you want to do with a criminal justice degree?
I'm interested in going to law school. However, that's not in my reach, in my grasp right now. Trying to get finances together.
Who do you live with now?
I live with my mother.
No, you don't. Not all the time. I say that because there was a slight pause in your answer. I live with my mother. People who live with their mother say, I live at home. Is that your friend?
Long-time friend.
Good. Even he knows you don't live with your mother. Mr. Medrano, you make a baby, you have to support that child.
I agree.
And you can't say, I have things to pay for, I have school, I have other things. If you're a substitute teacher, that means when you're not substitute teaching, you have time. You can do a lot of things. You drive a taxi cab, you drive a livery, you do something to make money.
That's not what I graduated college for.
Oh, sir, I understand that. People do things that they don't necessarily enjoy doing and that they're not necessarily trained to do or aspire to do in the future when they have responsibilities. You created a responsibility, and if no other family court judge has said this to you directly, I'm going to tell you that it is unfair and irresponsible and long-term is going to be the worst mistake you ever made by not treating the responsibility two of you created as the most important responsibility you have right now. I have worked a lot of jobs that I wasn't trained to do because I had a family to take care of. My husband, for sure, did a lot of jobs because he had children to take care of. Part-time, nights, weekends. Because when you make children, it's your responsibility to see to it that they want for nothing. So grow up and get your act together. Your claim is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her suit was frivolous.
I thought the whole thing was ridiculous and we could have settled it at home.
People do anything, you know, to try to make you look bad and try to get money that they don't really deserve.
People should be responsible, and it's true, when they bring a kid into this world, they should take care of them.
Cousins, Linda and Lonnie Butler, for the cost of 2 Cocker Spaniels and the return of property.
Order. All rise. This is case number 116 on the calendar in the matter of O'Connor versus Butler. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Miss O'Connor, I've read your complaint very carefully. Last June, you became ill and you were hospitalized. And you developed some severe complications. You have a child, a boy. How old is your boy?
He's 8.5.
When you went into the hospital, you left your son with your father. With whom?
My 2 sons, and there was another older teenager.
They were clearly unable to take care of him because your father, at some point, gave guardianship of your son to your cousins who were the defendants. Is that right?
Yes.
When was that? When did you take physical custody of the boy?
August 19th.
You were released when in August?
The 30th of August.
Then there was some issue as to whether they were going to give you the child back. On what day did you actually turn custody back over to the mother?
November 17th, 2000.
Your claim is as follows, Miss O'Connor. You say that about 1.5 years or so ago, you sold your cousins 2 Cocker Spaniels and they've never paid you. The second part of your claim is you say that they didn't return some of your son's clothing when they finally turned custody back over to you. That's your claim. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Let's deal with the dogs first. When did you give the dogs to the butlers?
It was around June, early June.
June of what year?
2000, I believe.
How old were the dogs?
One was 2 and one was 4. It was a mother and daughter.
Why could you no longer care for these 2 dogs?
Her dog, Bucky, was a Cocker Spaniel, and it died. So this is the reason why I didn't give it to her. She said she'd pay me back. She would pay me.
I'm asking you a question. You've got 2 dogs, 2 and 4 years old, that are living with you, that I assume you're attached to. Why did you get rid of the dogs?
She told me she'd have a better home for them and that she could groom them herself. It was very expensive to groom them for me because I had it done.
So that's why you weren't able to take care of the dogs. You didn't want to do the grooming anymore.
Right.
Right. Now, what makes you think, first of all, these dogs are worth $200 a piece, which is what you...
$375 for the mother.
Yes.
And sold her puppies for $250.
So?
That's what I bought the dog for.
Okay. I'll hear you. Go ahead. Let's hear about the dogs first.
As far as the dogs, we were there on a Sunday. She was about ready to put the dogs in the paper. And I told her I would take them. Yes, Bucky did pass away. But that's not why I wanted them, is because they needed a home.
Well, what was she going to put them in the paper for?
To sell them for money. My husband was there and my daughter was there as witnesses. She says, go ahead and take the dogs. They're very neglected. She couldn't take care of them anymore.
Nobody buys a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old dog, madam, for $200 a piece. That's where you read for adoption. Can't take care of them anymore. These are adult dogs. Let's leave the dogs for a second. You went into the hospital. You've got 2 sons. You've got somebody else. How come your child ended up with your cousins?
My father took it upon himself. He didn't say, can I have them or anything. He took them out of the home. He dumped out 7 full-size drawers of Gabriel's clothes.
There must have been a reason for that, Miss O'Connor. How old are your sons?
20, 18, and 8.5.
20 and 18?
Yes.
So your father probably was using his brain and figured out that your 8-year-old wasn't being properly taken care of by your 20-year-old son and your 18-year-old son. Don't you think that's possible?
He was going to school every day.
Miss O'Connor, what do you possibly think motivated your father to come and take him out of the house when the mother isn't there and you got 2 teenage boys in the house in charge of an 8-year-old? What do you think your father was thinking? He wanted to do something to spite you?
Yes.
Yes? You the 2 sons?
I'm one of them.
Which one, 18 or 20?
18.
Step up. Were you there when your grandfather came and took your little brother?
Yes, I was.
Tell me about that. Did you have a conversation with him?
Yes, he said we wouldn't be able to afford food for him, so he would come and take him and bring him into a better home where they could take care of him a little bit better.
And what did you say?
I said, okay.
Good. Sit down. By the way, were you working?
No,
What about your 20-year-old brother? Was he working?
not at the time.
So how were you living?
On what was in the kitchen.
That's why your father took your son, turned him over to cousins who took care of him.
But wouldn't give him back.
Well, evidently they felt as if he had been a little neglected, madam.
Yes, ma'am. They wouldn't give him back.
Ultimately, a court gave him back to you. Is that right?
Yes.
But not right away.
I had to go through 3 courts.
But not right away.
Right.
While you were in the hospital, you say that they took care of him for 3 weeks. Did you thank them?
Yes.
When did you thank them?
Over the phone.
Did you say, do I owe you any money?
She got his checks.
What checks?
His Social Security. His father had died.
Yes.
My husband died. So he got the Social Security
Right.
money. That's what she was getting.
How many Social Security checks did you get? Yes.
Ma'am, I've had him since August 19th. I didn't get paid until October, November. All of August and September, I did it from my heart.
How did you manage to get a check for October?
I went to Rancho Cucamonga Police Department and went to court. They gave me temporary custody. That's what opened the doors for that boy.
Month of August, month of September, she got no money. Where were his checks going in August and September?
August, I'm in the hospital. I got it I got it August. I got one September.
Where did the money go?
In my bank account.
Well, why didn't you send them the money?
I wasn't talking to her by then. She couldn't talk to me.
Okay.
She got too hostile.
All right. A, let's forget about the dogs. You gave the dogs away because you couldn't take care of them. Ages 2 and 4 years old. Not worth $400 or $500. Absolutely not. And not only that, But you didn't even ask for them back.
Yes, I did.
When? When?
When she started talking to me when I had child visitations with my son Gabriel.
When you were angry with her?
I wasn't angry. She was angry.
When you were angry with her because she wouldn't give your son back?
She was angry that I got visitations to my son to take him every Saturday. And that's a 2.5-hour drive.
So that's when you asked for your dogs back?
Yeah, she only had one. The other one she sold.
Did you sell?
I gave her away because she had a howling problem.
Who did you give the dog to?
It was a lady in the newspaper.
I would like the dogs back.
Well, you can't have them back. Gave them away. All right, let's talk about clothes. What clothes do you say they have?
My dad emptied out in trash bags 7 full-size drawers, socks, underwear, everything was taken.
Right.
And when I finally won the last battle, November 17th, I got 2 trash bags, 2 little trash bags of clothes. Plus, it was his birthday. I bought him all kinds of stuffed toys and everything, and I didn't see any of that come back.
How much does Gabriel get from Social Security?
$557.
A month?
Yes.
Okay. That's about $1,100 for the 2 months that your son was with them that you put in your bank, right? You put that money in your bank, right? Money that was supposed to go for the support. I'm speaking. Money that was supposed to go for the support of the child, you put in your checking account.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kathy O'Connor is suing her cousins, Linda and Lonnie Butler, for the cost of 2 Cocker Spaniels and the return of property.
You took your son's money and you put it in your bank account. So if you have to buy more clothes for him, go buy more clothes for him. Do you think I'm going to get involved in underwear, 6 pairs of underwear, 3 pairs of shoes, a pair of sneakers? I have no intention of doing that. As far as I'm concerned, when somebody takes charge of your child because you're incapable of doing it, what do you want?
The thing is, when my grandpa came over, he said he was going to take care of him.
What difference does it make? You're 18. If you were grown up and mature and responsible, and it's the summertime, one of you goes out, gets a job, act responsibly so that your grandfather wouldn't have had to worry about your 8-year-old brother. You weren't going to do it, and she's in the hospital.
He was fine.
Oh, yeah, he was fine. I don't believe that a grandfather comes over and takes it upon himself to remove a baby, little boy, 8 years old, from a house where he thinks the child is thriving.
He was getting fed.
What do you want? Who are you?
Why is he? I'm Linda's son. Why isn't he here to testify about this?
I have no idea why he's not here. Maybe nobody brought him here. All I'm telling you is
he doesn't want
she
to
didn't take... You're whose son?
Linda's son.
Her son.
Her son?
Yes.
Were you available to take care of the 8-year-old?
At the time, I didn't know about it. I was overseas.
So what do you know now?
What I know now?
What do you know now?
I know about the situation going on where she had kidnapped a child.
Sit down. There was a court order, sir, when the court had at least some facts before it.
Some manipulation.
I'm speaking, which gave them temporary custody. Now, in order to establish that you're going to give a child to biological strangers, at least not a mother and father, there has to be some overriding neglect or abuse or abandonment. And unless you can prove any of those 3 things, long-term neglect, abuse, or abandonment, the child has to go back to the biological parent, even if the biological parent is not so terrific. Clearly, a court in October, when faced with certain facts, said, we want to take a more careful look at this situation before we return this child, so they gave them temporary custody. As far as I'm concerned, there should be a thank you here instead of a lawsuit. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Thank you,
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you. To me, the evil snake is to go on with her life.
He's not the same kid anymore.
He's a very neglected child.
Is suing her ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old student Nikishna Myron, for medical bills due to an assault.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. This is case number 305 on the calendar in the matter of Bianchi versus Myron. Parties been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Bianchi, the defendant is a former boyfriend of yours who you claim assaulted you, causing you to injure yourself in your college dormitory.
Correct.
When did this happen?
It was on May 23rd.
Tell me about the incident that caused this injury.
Well, what led up to it, it was really, our relationship was volatile for the past few months, issues with drugs and trying to get off of them. There was a lot of tension, and he was angry with me, I was angry with him. I was pushed down some stairs and heard...
No. Don't go there yet.
Okay.
He came over to your dorm.
He lived in my dorm. We lived in the same one.
And you're sitting where, in a living room area?
Yes. We were watching a TV show.
Was there anybody else there?
Yes, there was. There was probably 5 people.
And what happened? You're watching television, another 5 people are there.
We had gotten in a little squabble about something and arguing back and forth.
What had you gotten into a squabble about?
I honestly don't remember. It was always something, though. Something...
So you were talking during the television program?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody tell you to be quiet?
No.
Okay. What happened next?
We were both kind of really angry with each other. And then just some like pushing and shoving.
What do you mean pushing and shoving?
What?
Shh. What do you mean pushing and shoving?
Back and forth.
Who started pushing?
It was both at the same time.
So you were pushing each other on the shoulders?
Kind of like back and forth. And then...
How did that happen? What do you mean back and forth? Explain that to me.
We were angry with each other, and he had ice also. He was throwing it at me. And after we were done pushing each other, we got up. And then that's when everything started leading to this.
Well, so after you were pushing each other on the couch, then you both got up at the same time?
Yes.
And what happened when you got up?
What happened when we had gotten up was, since we were hitting each other, he wanted to hold me down. He held me down onto the floor. I couldn't move.
Yes.
We got back up. I went after him. Going after him, I still needed to speak with him.
What do you mean you went after him?
Walked after him.
So he went to walk away?
Yes.
He went to leave?
Mm-hmm.
And you went after him?
Yeah,
so his
to
back
speak
is
with
towards
him
you?
about yes.
So his back is towards you. And what happened at that point?
He turned around, and I got pushed across the room.
What?
And into the sunken den. There's 2 stairs, and heard a snap.
And that's when you hurt your leg?
Yes.
And you were on crutches for a while?
Yes.
You lost your job?
Mm-hmm.
And you had expenses?
Yes.
Right? And you want him to pay you $5,000.
Huh?
Okay. Now let me hear your version of these events.
We were sitting down as she said, things were we did argue a lot. That was the extent of it, verbal arguments. And we're sitting down watching a TV show, watching Dawson's Creek season finale. I could give a crap about Dawson's Creek. I had...
Excuse me.
Thank you. I had a 10-page paper due the next day.
I'm not interested in your paper.
I'm sorry, I'm procrastinating, so I got up, and I said, I'm going to go write my paper. And she said, excuse my language, but out of nowhere. And I was like, what? And as soon as I turned around and said, what? She picked up a Starbucks mug and threw it straight at my genitalia. And she had pretty good aim, because I lifted my knee like this, and it hit me right in the shin. And getting hit in the shin hurts really bad. It left a knot like about that big on my shin, about that much inch raised off my shin, bleeding. I was like, ow! And then, sorry, I'm just trying to, it was crazy. So I grabbed her by arms, and I set her down, I was really stern, and I set her down on the couch, right where she was sitting. Then she got up and threw it. I put her back on the couch. I started walking away, really mad. Started walking towards my dorm, right? She was right about my back being turned towards her. She came, the reason I looked back was because she was screaming. She was like, ah, coming after me, and all I seen was arms flailing like this, and I protected myself, and I blocked her arms, I grabbed her, I wrestled her onto the ground, and it wasn't that hard. I'm state champion wrestler, and it wasn't that hard, and so I took her down, held her there, give her time to think and maybe stop. No, as soon as I let her go, she jumped right back to her feet, came right at me again, scratched me. I held her again, put her down to the ground. Her hands got away. She hit me twice in the face, and we stood up. I had Courtney by the arms right here, holding her arms so she couldn't hit me anymore. And I said, you know what? And I said, it's over. I'm done, because I just don't deal with the physical violence. That's not who I am. And she came at me with that, and I told her that's it. And that's when I broke up with her.
Pushed her and she fell.
Yeah, she stumbled back. There's a step going into the den. She tripped. She fell on her butt. She fell on her butt. I can't see how she could have tore a ligament.
She tore a ligament in her leg.
Yeah, so it happened, you know, but it was out of self-defense.
Miss Bianchi, who started the physical stuff, Miss Bianchi?
Who started the physical? It was on both of our parts.
Then you got the worst of the bargain.
But I don't consider the shoving and verbal need for me to be thrown back down some stairs.
Well, sometimes that happens. You said that you were in a physical fight with him. Somebody always is going to get the bad, worse part of the deal. Somebody's always going to end up the loser in a physical fight.
That's what I'm saying, though. It didn't get too physical until he actually had
That's
thrown
not
me.
true. There's no question in my mind that you slapped him, right?
After he had been holding me down, yes.
Well,
it wasn't on the couch that he had set me down.
Let me tell you something. He was holding you down for a reason. What do you think the reason was that he got you to the ground and he was holding you down?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he was holding you down?
Because I was yelling at him close face to face.
No. But you just told me you were fighting with each other. Physically.
Pushing, shoving.
Well, that's what he did. That's what he did. You pushed him, he pushed you, you pushed him, he pushed you, you fell, and you hurt yourself. What do you want from the courts?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Courtney Bianchi says ex-boyfriend Nikishna Myron injured her ankle during an assault. Nikishna says Courtney started it by throwing a coffee cup at him.
Go ahead.
I want him to be responsible for his actions because after this had happened, he told me, I'll pay for whatever it cost, that it was his fault.
It wasn't his fault.
He admitted guilt to it, and he offered to pay for the medical bills that would
Did you offer to pay for the medical bills?
I offered to help. Trying to be a good human being, and we were broken up. I didn't want nothing to deal with her, but I knew medical bills were expensive. I said, I'll help.
You'll help pay the medical bills.
And then I told
Well,
her,
then you agreed to pay the medical bills.
I could.
He said he would pay for all of them.
And she said, well, and I stopped talking to her over the summer, and she's all, well, when am I going to get the money? I said, well, I got to deal with, like, rent first. You know, I got to survive.
Just a second. So you agreed to pay for, according to you, some of the medical bills.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. That was very generous of you. But if you agreed to pay for it, that's an agreement that you had with her. So you have to pay for some of her medical bills. He doesn't pay for anything else, madam. You want him to pay $5,000. How much were your medical bills?
$1,598 for the emergency room, $70 for x-rays.
And how much of that was reimbursed by insurance?
None.
Why not?
It was because of the way that it happened. I had to be taken to an emergency room. I heard a snap, and I didn't want to wait around to be taken to one of the planned facilities.
So you don't have insurance that covers emergency room treatment?
I do have insurance as long as I go through my provider.
What kind of provider do you have?
Kaiser Permanente.
Did you submit the bill to Kaiser?
Yes. And they sent me back a bill saying this is how much you owe, that they didn't cover it.
Well, then let me see that. Let me see the letter from Kaiser.
That's what they sent me is the bill. They submitted it from the emergency room, which was Irvine Medical Center, to Kaiser, and Kaiser sent me the bill.
Okay.
For it.
All right, your total medical bills was $1,668. You don't get anything for pain and suffering, you don't get anything for lost wages, you don't get anything for your aggravation, and you get half your medical bills because you are at least half responsible for what happened that day. Just because you enter into an argument that escalates into physical violence with somebody, and even if the somebody happens to be a man, that doesn't mean that if you get the worst end of the deal or the short end of the stick, you get compensated. Quite frankly,
I'm saying is, because of his past, he says he's not that kind of person. I have a lot of things right here.
I'm not interested in a lot
that he is.
I'm not interested in a lot of things. You didn't tell me about throwing the Starbucks coffee cup at him. How come?
After he held me down?
How come you didn't tell me about throwing the Starbucks coffee cup at him?
I don't know. I'm guessing I'm kind of nervous and I forgot about it.
Right.
Your Honor?
What?
I just don't feel I should pay her anything because I think she's exaggerating this whole thing. It's a big facade. She wasn't that hurt.
She went to the emergency room. I wouldn't ordinarily give her a thing, quite frankly, sir. Listen to me.
Okay.
I wouldn't give her a farthing. But you agreed to help her with her medical bills.
Understand.
And then, after you agreed to help her with her medical bills, you said, well, I got other bills to pay. I got rent that I got to deal with and other things, but you had agreed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So, if it wasn't for that agreement, I wouldn't give her anything. We understand each other?
Understand.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $834. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have papers right here for his DUI, shoplifting, purchasing airline tickets on stolen credit cards.
2 weeks later, she wasn't even hurt. She was jumping on the bed naked in the dorms in front of 1,000 people, enough to hit her head 3 times on the ceiling.
Stay away from drug addicts.
I wouldn't recommend going out with this woman. Stay away.
For half of their son's medical bills, Bethany says Richard took their boy to the wrong doctor.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 304 on the calendar in the matter of Gray versus Gray. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Gray, when were you and the defendant divorced?
In 1995.
And how many children do you have?
1.
Your lawsuit involves the child.
Yes.
It is your claim that pursuant to your judgment of divorce, each of you is required to pay 1/2 of the unreimbursed medical expenses for the child.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you took the child to see a psychologist.
Yes.
Child was treated by this psychologist, and you want the defendant to pay 1/2 of that bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Which was how much? 300 and some odd dollars?
For the psychologist alone, it was $195 for her part.
And then?
The medical expenses totaled up $595 for her part.
What were the rest of the medical expenses for?
Doctor's visits for attention deficit disorder, his checkups, medication.
Over what period of time did you have him treated?
From 1998 up to present date.
When did you first present her with the bill?
My wife and I have presented her with the bills every few months all along, and she's refused to pay every time.
What reason did she give you for not wanting to pay?
She says she doesn't have to pay. The courts aren't going to make her.
Ms. Gray, was your son diagnosed as having attention deficit disorder?
Yes.
Your defense is that he took him to a doctor that was out of plan.
Yes.
And therefore, since you're covered by some sort of a health plan, is it a private health plan or is it a state health plan?
State.
That since he could have gotten the treatment for nothing, you shouldn't have to pay anything?
Yes.
Are you the primary custodian for the child?
Yes.
Why didn't you take the child then to the doctor?
He was 4 years old. I was going to wait until he started school and see if it was something that he would grow out of.
Well, clearly he didn't.
Once he established the doctor down in Bakersfield, my pediatrician tried to keep in touch with him. Because of the medication, we were trying to keep it in one place. And I am right now, under my pediatrician's recommendation, having a reevaluation done.
So you consented to him taking the child to this doctor after 1998?
I didn't consent to it. He never told me about it.
No, he did tell you about it. Initially, he had to have told you because if the child was prescribed medication in 1998 and you are the child's primary custodian, you would have had to have given the child medication when the child was with you.
Yes, I do give him the medication.
So if you gave him the medication, then you knew that the child had a diagnosis, which I'm sure you discussed with your former husband, so you consented to it.
Yes, with my doctor's consent.
Fine. You didn't say to him at that time, Miss Gray, I don't want you to take the child to your doctor anymore. I will take care of it here.
I've tried to.
You didn't?
No.
Can I see your judgment of divorce, please?
I have told him that. I've never been presented a bill either.
Okay, well, this order clearly says that both parties shall be responsible for 1/2 of all such expenses not otherwise covered by insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? So when I asked you that question, Miss Gray, you clearly knew when the child was 4 that the child had certain problems, and that you said you wanted to wait until he got to school to see whether the problems would resolve themselves.
He was my first child, and I assumed that it was basically being a 4-year-old child, just busy and playing, and I had him in Head Start. They didn't see any reason to take him in for a diagnosis at that time. My pediatrician wanted to keep it separate and just keep in contact with that doctor that he took him to, who is...
So you consented to him taking the child to that doctor.
I guess
If you
I did.
consented to him taking the child to that doctor, under the terms of your judgment to divorce, you are responsible for 1/2 of the unreimbursed medical bills.
I provided him with a Medi-Cal card. He chose to take him to a doctor that didn't accept Medi-Cal and now wants me to pay for it. And I have provided him with insurance, which he is court-ordered to provide, and he doesn't.
Do you?
Yes, that's the Medi-Cal. I provide that for him.
How do you provide Medi-Cal for him?
I get AFDC because I can't work.
Well, then the state
For
provides it.
7
You don't
years.
provide it. I provide it. Bird provides it, but you don't provide it. You
It's
don't
because
provide
I
it.
can't work.
Whatever. You don't provide it. You can't say, I provide him insurance. You don't provide him with insurance.
He's got insurance because of me.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Gray. Is it true that your former wife is unemployed?
Yes, she has been for 7 years.
So how do you expect her to pay this money?
She gets AFDC, and she is living with the father of her other 2 children that has a $45,000 a year income.
How can you get AFDC if you are married?
I'm not
that
married.
I'm not worried
Just a
about.
second.
She's not married to the man. She's living with him.
Do you have other children?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
5 and 2.5.
Well, why can't you work?
Because I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. In 1998, the counselor that Cody was seeing didn't want me to work because they wanted me home with him. After that, the county didn't want me to work because I had a child under the age of 1. Then my current doctor does not want me to work because of the fibromyalgia. I've got the papers and the documents.
I'm just curious
stating
if you can't work, but you can have 2 young children, and you're living with somebody now full time, and you have 2 children with that person, and that
Yes.
person is employed?
Yes.
What kind of work does that person do?
He's a roofer.
It's a roofer. You live in your own home?
We rent a duplex, yes.
Okay. Can I see the bills, please?
We aren't married because of this. Because in the last 6 years, he's taken me to court 7 times over custody issues.
What does that have to
And
do with not being married?
My fiance is afraid that it's going to affect his income and his taxes.
Well, it may, but you can't choose not to work.
I'm not choosing
Yes,
not to work.
you choose not to work. You cannot choose not to work if you have a financial obligation for this child who is older.
He's $11,979 in debt to child support. I'm not choosing not to work. I tried to work in October, from October 9th of
Miss
2000.
Gray, when you have 2 children and you live with a man as a family, and the reason you are not married is to avoid certain obligations.
I'm not avoiding obligations.
Yes, you are. If you're living with a man who is a roofer, who earns a substantial living, and you have 2 children with him, and you're getting welfare, that, according to me, is a scam. That's a scam.
The county knows about it, and
The county may know about it. The county may have its head up its behind, but I don't.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Richard Gray says ex-wife Bethany Gray refuses to pay for half their son's medical bills. Bethany says Richard refuses to use a doctor covered by her insurance.
Miss Gray, I've been in family court for a very, very long time. There is no question that if you married the man who is the father of your 2 young children, you would not be receiving welfare.
Every time
There
we
is
have
no
planned to
question.
get married, he has taken me to court. He has harassed me through court 7 times in 6 years, trying to get custody. And the judge in Kern County finally moved venue from Kern County to Placer County because he has done harassing me.
Miss Gray, that is
through
not
the
harassing.
courts.
If he is trying to exercise his right to get custody of his child for whatever reason, because he feels as if it's in the child's best interest, and it very well may be in the child's best interest, I don't know, I'm not hearing that case, that is not harassment. What I said to you was very clear and simple. You live with a man with whom you have 2 young children, you are not married, and there is no question that if you married this man with whom you are living, you would not be receiving welfare.
I'm
Period.
not concerned
End of
about
discussion.
the welfare. I've done it to keep the health insurance on my son because he doesn't pay child support. He doesn't carry health insurance.
Just 1 second. He doesn't pay child support to you, madam. He pays child support, whatever he pays, to the county because
He
the
doesn't pay
county is
child
supporting
support.
you. Has nothing to do with you.
I have a check stub where they take my child support straight out of my payroll.
Whatever child support he pays goes directly
I
to welfare.
understand
And I'm
that.
telling you that if you were, in fact, married to the man who is the father of your 2 children, you wouldn't be receiving support from Bird.
We haven't been able to get married because of this man.
Then you shouldn't be able to have 2 children with him. What do you mean you haven't been able to get married? That's ridiculous.
We can't afford it. Every time we have set a wedding date, he's taken me back to court. He does this on a regular basis.
Listen to me, Ms. Gray. You're not following what I'm saying to you. You owe him for half of the unreimbursed medical bills for your son since 1998. Your pediatrician said to you, let the doctor who's been treating him continue to treat him. You said, okay, you are responsible under the judgment of your divorce for half of the unreimbursed bills. You're going to pay them. What are the bills in total? Come on.
They come to $723 for her part.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $723. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The person can only milk the system for so long before they have to be paid for what they agreed in court.
I'm not on welfare because I'm lazy. My doctor said I cannot work.
She needs to pay her part. It took 2 of us to bring him here. It's going to take 2 of us to raise him.
I want him to leave me alone, visit with his son, and just leave me alone.
Claire O'Connell and her husband, 57-year-old data technician Brian O'Connell, are suing their former daughter-in-law, 33-year-old computer analyst Lysandra Cruz, for an unpaid loan to move. Lysandra is countersuing for harassment.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Thank you. Yeah, this is case number 228 on the calendar in the matter of O'Connell versus Cruz. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. and Mrs. O'Connell, the defendant is your former daughter-in-law.
Correct.
Married to your son, and they had 3 children, according to your complaint. Is
Yes,
that right? You claim that you made a loan to her in order for her to be able to relocate, I assume after the divorce.
Yes, ma'am.
With 3 children.
Yes.
And she has not repaid that loan.
Yes.
And the defendant says that loan was no loan, but a gift. So we will get to that. And she has a cross complaint. I don't know what that's about, but I'm sure you'll explain it to me. Okay.
Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Just a second. I have questions.
Okay.
At the time that you advanced this money to the defendant, where were you living?
The state of Florida.
And where was the defendant living?
State of Maryland.
And tell me the circumstances surrounding her moving from Maryland to Florida.
Mainly, Your Honor, is that she had called me up on a Sunday afternoon, practically in tears. She didn't know what to do. She was being evicted from the apartment that she was living in because she didn't have the monies for the rent.
When was that?
The beginning of August of 2000.
Okay.
She pretty much begged for our help. She didn't know what to do. Her own mother wouldn't sign a lease for her to make sure that the monies for the rent were paid each month, because if Lisa failed to do that, the mother didn't want to be responsible.
How old were your 3 grandchildren at that time?
At the time...
4, 7, and 11.
And where was your son? In what state?
He was living in New York.
Okay, go ahead.
So she begged for our help. She didn't know what to do. She said she was going to have to go to a shelter or live in the car. She didn't have any money. Could we please help her? We discussed with her what we would be able to do.
Well, what did you say to her, and what did she say to you?
We told her that we would advance her the monies to move down here. I would have an apartment rented for her, have to pay first, last, and security. I would have utilities established if I needed to pay a deposit, but that I did expect the monies back from her. We were not in a position to give her a gift. Okay, this was a loan only. I would even have a job secured for her in Florida, which I did. And as long as the utilities and the rent and the apartment was in my name, that I would make sure I would pretty much manage the monies coming in through her salary as well as her child support.
Is this what you discussed with her?
Yes, ma'am, to make sure that everything was paid for.
And what about your son? How come she was penniless in Maryland?
Well, she wasn't penniless, Your Honor. He was paying child support.
How much?
$328 every other week.
So he was paying $150 a week for the support of 3 children.
That's what they deemed necessary for him to pay.
What kind of work does he do?
He's a police officer. Your Honor, if I may, he had offered to pay more, but based upon his salary at the time that he got divorced, he was only told that he needed to pay $154.
I'm just trying to figure out how come she had absolutely no money. Now I understand why she had no money. Is your family in Maryland?
No, it is not.
Where's your family?
My family was in New York.
When you were living with your husband, were you living in New York or in Maryland?
In New York with my ex-husband.
So what did you move to Maryland for?
Maryland, I moved because I have friends there. I just wanted to start over with the kids in a better area.
Had you discussed that with your husband before you moved to Maryland?
With my ex-husband, I had never any contact once he left with the other woman. He never came back.
So he left you in New York?
He left me with the 3 kids, no money, an eviction notice, all the
So that's why you moved to Maryland?
Right.
Okay. Go ahead. So then she comes down to Florida.
So we advanced her the monies to come down to Florida.
How much in total did you advance her?
I advanced her a total of almost $9,000, which $2,400 was paid back, and that's where it stopped.
When did she stop making payments to you?
She stopped making payments through her ex-husband's child support in November
What do
of
you mean
2000.
through her ex-husband's child support? What does that mean?
What she was doing is turning over one of the child support checks to me as repayment for what I was advancing her.
Now, when they came down to Florida, your daughter-in-law and the 3 children, did you see them regularly?
Oh, yes, we saw them regularly.
That was a good
They were
thing.
a good part of their life.
And they still see them regularly?
No.
Yes, they
No,
do.
ma'am, we don't.
Yes,
No, ma'am, we don't.
September 8th, they took them to the movies and out to eat. Right after that, the week after, September 15th, my father-in-law took my 3 children to the library and got them library cards. Okay? They do see them. They
They
do.
may not see them the way they like to see them, but it's good at least that
Yes,
they see them.
they
That's
do
a
see
good,
them.
That's a good thing.
After that was when I was served, and they have not seen the children, and that was their choice. Never mind. My children have nothing to do with what's going on between us.
Well, that's
the
very-
grandparents.
That's very good.
And they have not called to see them.
You should.
No, we did, Your Honor. That's not entirely true. The last time I called her up, I said, I want to establish grandfather night again. I want to be able to take those kids out every Monday like I used to do before. And her word was, I'll think about it.
Your Honor, I'm being charged for every Monday that they took them
No,
out.
we're not, Your Honor.
Yes, they are.
Just a second.
Yes,
What do you
I
mean-
am.
what do you mean
If
being
you
charged?
look at the suit that they're charging me, they're charging me for times where they took them out to eat, paper goods, a birthday cake, a birthday present they bought them.
Something must have happened.
They are
What-
jealous of my mom. I can tell you
What
the whole
happened?
story.
All right, because something must have happened to you, because here you have good people.
Yes, very good, and I love them to death for everything
Good
they
people
did.
who try to do the right thing. You call up and you say, this is not going well. I'm prepared to come to Florida, but I don't have any money. These don't look like really rich people, right?
Correct.
So it's not as if the money was free-flowing. You did it because you wanted your only 3 grandchildren to have some sort of stability and security. So far they're okay. And for a long time, they were an integral part of the kids' lives. What I want to know is what happened to
tell you.
change that?
What happened was I came down here first with the children.
To Florida.
To Florida. And everything, like she said, was fine. There was never a verbal agreement of you have to pay me back. It was we are going to help you because we know that you're having a tough time with no child support from my ex-husband. When I came down, they had everything prepared, which turned out to be a lie.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Claire and Brian O'Connell are suing their former daughter-in-law, Lysandra Cruz, for a loan to move. The O'Connells say Lysandra is keeping them from seeing their grandchildren.
Go ahead.
The apartment that supposedly I have proof here that I paid the security and I paid the first month October rent and every rent after that. Once I got here, I took over all the bills, paying them, which I have every receipt and every proof that I have paid every single bill that was under her name.
Were you working?
Yes.
Was it a job that your mother-in-law had found for you?
Yes.
What kind of job?
It is a computer analyst for a bank.
Great.
Yeah.
And who takes care of the children? Who was
They
taking
go
care
to
of
the
children?
YMCA after-school program.
Wonderful. Go ahead.
Okay. So everything was going okay. What started happening was she started meeting me every payday after work and made sure that I went to the bank with her and everything was paid like a little child. It was like a controlling thing started happening.
What was paid?
The phone bill, the light bill, the rent, everything, which I kept saying to her, I can do on my own. I am not a child. I know how to do this. She had the key to the house. She would come into the apartment while I was sleeping. She would come in while I was at work because neighbors would tell me, what was your mother-in-law doing in your apartment while you're working? Started getting very scary. I started calling my mother and telling her, Ma, this is really bad. They have total control of me. I cannot take this. I need help. The whole thing started was she wanted the family together in Florida because they wanted to grow up with the grandchildren.
I think that's
and
great.
everybody be together. That's what happened. Once my mother came down to Florida, she was going to stay with me until she found an apartment and a job. Well, this is where everything happened, where she got very jealous. My mother-in-law, Claire, wanted me to charge my mother $300 a week for my mom to stay with me, which I refused. I said, this is my mother. I cannot charge my mother for staying with me. There is absolutely no way I could do it. She came to the house, confronted me in front of my mom, and said, speak up now, wanted me to tell my mother that she had to pay me to stay, plus the money was going to go to her, not me, even though I was paying the rent.
You need to pay off this loan.
Supposedly what I owed her. It started all out of jealousy, ma'am. All out of jealousy, Your Honor. And it shouldn't have been this way, because I love them equally.
Oh, all terrible. All very sad. Are you working?
Yes, I am.
You live with your daughter and your 3 grandchildren, or do you have your own place?
I have my own place,
Now.
and now she's living with me. And the
Stand
2
up.
children. Sorry.
So you left the apartment that your mother-in-law
I was
originally
thrown
found,
out.
and you moved into a new place with your mom.
I was thrown
When
out.
did you do that?
We left the
In
apartment
August.
in August.
Sounds to me like you are a very responsible, caring gal.
Very.
And not, hopefully, not let this interfere with your children having wonderful relationships with both of their sets of grandparents. So that's wonderful. And Mr. and Mrs. O'Connell, I think that you're lovely people.
Yes, but it's not entirely true what she says,
It's
Your Honor.
not true what she says, Your Honor.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Miss Cruz, by her own statements, doesn't deny that she owes you some more money, that this was not a gift. Because if she was paying you back, then it's clear to me that it was the understanding between the two of you that the money that you advanced her would be returned when she could.
All right.
It's one of those unusual cases where you all sound like absolutely lovely people, and I'm not going to look at all of your bills and everything else, and I'm going to tell you why, Mr. and Mrs. O'Connell, because I don't want you to say or do anything that will permanently alter the relationship that you have with your daughter-in-law. And you really have to make an arrangement so that they can see the kids
They
sort of
do.
regularly, and shouldn't allow this thing
You know,
here.
they do. What I am mostly afraid of, the last time they took my children, my daughter Jessica came back hysterical crying because as kids they do ask, Grandma, Grandpa, can you buy me this, can you buy me that? She asked them to buy her a sweater. Claire said, I will not buy your sweater because your mother gets child support. Now how can you tell a child that? My daughter came back hysterical crying. I am totally afraid for them to go with them.
They're not going to say that anymore. If they said it, maybe they need a reality check.
Your Honor, I said, excuse me, Jesse, I love you very much, but Grandma is all spent out, okay? All these times when Daddy wasn't sending the checks, Grandpa and I were paying for everything. I said, we don't have
How
any
old is
more
this
money.
child? How
She's
old
8
is-
years old, and I said, Jesse, I said, now your mommy is getting all of your daddy's child support,
Which
the
I am
current
not.
plus the back child support. I wish I could,
Miss
Jesse.
O'Connell, that is not a discussion that you have with an 8-year-old. Children should never, ever be involved with the finances in a family. Children, all they hear is, there's friction in my family, it's all over money, my
Children should
daddy...
never be heard then. The children.
Right. You're absolutely right. So even though you started out with, I love you very much, you did something very hurtful. Don't show me anything yet.
May I say one thing, Your Honor?
I'm not finished.
I'm sorry.
So sometimes adults don't always do the right thing either.
This is what I'm saying. I'm very afraid.
They're not going to do it anymore. Promise?
Promise.
Promise?
Definitely promise, Your Honor.
Promise.
I love them to death. I love my
Promise.
grandchildren so much.
Maybe they didn't realize that it was hurtful to her, but they really have to have sort of a regular...
Yes.
Do you have any
I
problem
agree.
with that?
I know. I totally agree. I never did have a problem. They've always had the right to see, like I said, the kids. I never put the kids in the middle.
Good.
My understanding is that the children are not living with Lisa's mother any
They're
longer.
living with my mother.
Well, do you live with your mother?
Yes.
What makes you think not?
My son, when he came down for a visit, he went over there and says that Lisa is getting another apartment somewhere. She's been saving the child support money to get an apartment.
Listen to me. There ain't that much to save.
Thank you.
She's not becoming rich
No one
on
said
the
she's
amount of
becoming
child support that your son is sending to her. Believe me. Listen to me, folks. These children are the innocents. And whatever other agendas everybody has, you have to make sure that the innocents aren't made to feel any worse. Here, they had a wonderful relationship with you. All of a sudden, that's taken away from them because of a dispute amongst adults having nothing to do with them. So these children, if you want them to grow up emotionally secure, you better stop the bickering. Now, Miss Cruz, you owe the O'Connells some money, okay? Because I find that this was not a gift, but it was a loan that they made to you as you could repay them. Now I'm going to hear your counterclaim. Let me hear it.
Your Honor, first of all, I gave in my car when I first moved to Florida in order to get another car. Because of my divorce with my ex-husband and loans that he had, my credit history is no good. They, in turn, say, we will put the car under our name and you make all the payments. Well, Your Honor, that's exactly what I did. Now, when they turned around and got angry with my mom for the jealousy bit with the grandma thing, they went and they stole the car. We went outside and the car was gone.
Okay, you took it back. When did you take it back?
Okay, we took it back August 1st of this year, and the reason that we took it back, Your Honor, is because she had said to my husband, I don't want anything to do with you, I'm not paying you any more monies, leave me alone, don't have anything to do with me.
So you acknowledge that she had made all the payments on this car?
All the payments except for one, Your Honor.
Every
She
single
made all the
payment.
payments except for one.
For virtually all the payments on this car. Is that right?
Correct.
So the reason you took it back is because she said to you, I'm not giving you any more money.
Exactly.
What did you do with the car?
We have it. We're using it.
Did that leave her without a car?
Yes, it did leave her without a car.
Why would you do that?
Because she said to me she's not giving us any more money, she's not making any more payments to us.
So you took back the car?
Yes.
As payment for this loan?
No, Your Honor.
Oh.
No, Your Honor, it's separate.
No, Your
Okay.
Honor, they
No, it's not separate.
Yes, it is, Your Honor. She had abused privileges that I gave her. She was ruining my credit with
Never.
FPL. She
Your
ruined,
Honor, I have
she
No,
ruined my
I'm
credit.
talking about car.
Okay.
Car.
Nope.
Car. How much did you invest in the car in total?
$3,000, Your Honor. And
No,
every
Your
single
Honor,
thing
that's
is
not
here.
true.
Yes,
That's
it
not
is.
true, Your Honor.
Every money order's here. You can
Your
count
Honor,
it
that's not
yourself.
true, Your Honor.
You can count it yourself, Your Honor.
That's not true.
Well, how
loan
much,
this,
just
Your
let me
Honor?
ask you this question. How much money do you say that she has paid into the car?
Okay, $231 for 9 payments. So she used the car in June and hasn't paid me money
You
for
put
that.
that money.
No. Don't fight, please. I didn't want there to be any fighting. You also include your insurance in
Yes,
that bill.
that's
I'm just
not
talking about the car payments.
And that's not counting my car that I gave in, the 1994 Taurus.
And how much did you get for that?
$400 they put towards the bill of the car.
Okay. So all this started a whole bunch of problems. All started because you say your mother-in-law, they got jealous. She wanted you to charge your mother rent in order to pay her back faster. You said no. They got annoyed. To make a long story short, you've paid in $2,079 on the car. In addition, $400 you got as a trade-in for your old car. You had the use of this car, but you took this car back sort of in partial payment of whatever debt she owed you. So I'm deducting that from the cost of the $5,000. And I want to tell you something else. I think that you're not being terribly smart, the O'Connells. If Miss Cruz is saying what she means, which is she cares for you both, and that she's really very sorry for all of these bad things that happened between the two of you, and these are your only 3 grandchildren, I would, as my grandson would say, suck it up. Because I think you're making a big mistake for taking this any further. In any event, I find that she does not owe you the $5,000 that you're requesting. I am doing a set-off with the counterclaim. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,571. That is it.
We're also suing for our computer, Your Honor, which she has that we want back.
They gave
Just
that
a
to their
second.
grandson.
Goodbye.
Everything she said was a lie.
There was no reason for them to get jealous.
I am not jealous of her mother.
Their son is the one that left me no choice by not sending child support.
Try to be decent, folks. We just wanted to pay back what we put out for her.
If her mother would have stepped in where her mother should have stepped in, we wouldn't be here today.
I love them very much, just the same way I love my mom.
Well, I hope we can see the grandchildren again.
They were the one that stopped seeing the children because they went on their own because they wanted the money.
Anybody who knows her is better off not.
The father of her child, 24-year-old corporate trainer Robert Coran Jr., for unpaid utility bills and for half of a down payment on a car.
Miss Sue, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You have a child together, a baby. How old is the baby?
4 months.
According to your complaint, there was a time when you lived together briefly, and he left owing you certain bills, which is just a couple of $100s. You also claim that you purchased a car together, which he took, and you put down the down payment on the car. He's paid you back some of the down payment, but he still owes you, according to you, I believe, what, $600 on the down payment. He says the down payment was a gift, and that he owes you nothing, right?
Yes.
When did you live together? From when till when?
Middle of April to August 19th.
Who was paying your rent?
I paid for the first month that I was in maternity. He paid for the second part of my maternity.
So he paid the rent?
One time, yes.
And how much was that?
$400.
Were you living there from April to August?
Off and on. After the baby was born, yes. I was there predominantly. The only thing is, she said I only paid 1 month during those months. And the money that she did have, she'd had enough to pay her June rent, but July and August were covered by myself. There was such a limited amount of money by the time she had the baby coming in. She was only working, maybe it was 8 hours. Sometimes it would be 12 in the course of a week.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Coran? Are you paying child support regularly now?
The judge just set all that in motion.
What do you mean all that in motion?
We had an agreement outside of, before child support, she tells me, okay, I need this or I need that, but we went last week.
To finalize an order, a set order.
What she had us do is we come in there, we write down a percentage of what we each work and what he would be paying. Well, he decided that what he has to pay is too much. He has not paid any kind of child support. If you count buying diapers once a week in which he misses weeks at a time,
no, that's not child
support. That's not child support. So, no, I am responsible for everything.
That's usually what happens. You didn't have enough of a commitment to make a commitment to each other permanently, and then you make this commitment to have a child, and that's what happens.
Your Honor, I have acknowledged that when the judge makes the decision of, okay,
how much,
I will go back retroactively. That's not an issue.
Okay. So if you're going to go back retroactively, I'm not going to entertain these other bills. I believe him when he says he paid 2 months' rent. I want to hear about this car.
I got $3,459 back on my income tax. Both of us were without a car. His car had got taken away, so he didn't have it. We were together at that point, and I said, well, why don't we go and we'll get a car together, and it'll make it cheaper on both of us, and plus with the child coming.
So you put down the down payment on the car of $1,000.
Right.
There's no discrepancy that she did, in fact, put down the original $1,000.
The agreement we had was we were not officially together. We had lived together.
You were together enough to have a child together.
Yes. We had spent November, December, January together.
I don't get into that. You were going to tell me the agreement was what with regard to this $1,000?
The agreement was because of I had supported her for 2 months in the Christmas season because she had stopped working, some issues she was dealing with. I supported her with rent and everything.
Is that true?
He supported it with rent, yes, you are right.
Yes. So he paid, what, 2 months' rent?
Plus
1 month he
utilities.
did it. He did not do it both months. I supported myself. I got my food for myself. I did everything on my own until January. And he did not pay the rent because the people were coming to the house saying he did not pay it. So he can sit here and say, I paid it till he's blue in the face. It's not true.
It was paid.
You wouldn't have people knocking on your door in the lease office coming to your door if you paid it.
So your defense is that you supported her for whatever period of time prior to purchasing this car so that the down payment was?
She was going to put down $1,000. She needed $400 of it back immediately. It was as soon as I got my tax money back. But the other money was given to me. The car's in my name. There was no talk of putting her on the car. The insurance is my name. But the arrangement we were supposed to have is, okay, we're going to, if we're together or not,
you didn't say or not. No, Mr. Coran.
Okay.
I'm smarter than you are. I'm smarter than you are, sir. If we were together, because you were planning on being together, this would be a car that was used by both of you.
But
and you purchased this car, was $1,000 down, and how much in payments?
It's $300 a month.
That you're paying?
Yes.
But, Mr. Coran, you can't say to me, we talked about it, and the car was going to be mine. She was giving me the down payment whether we were together or not, because at that time, you weren't talking in terms of not being together. Otherwise, why would she take out $1,000 and put it? I'm speaking. Otherwise, why would she take out $1,000 for tax money and give it to you to put down on the car as a gift?
Her. Because I supported her, and she knew that in supporting her back in December, January, that I was taking the money that I didn't have that would have paid my car payment, and I lost the car over it.
You lost the car that you just bought?
No. I lost
that car you still have?
I still have. No, I have my Jeep. I'm saying I had a Toyota that I lost. I couldn't pay the payment because I was supporting her.
Listen, if you had made a minor investment, you wouldn't have had this problem to begin with all of her time off owing to pregnancy and confinement, and, you know, that would have been a very minor investment. Do we understand each other?
I understand you perfectly.
Then you don't have to worry about all this stuff. You have the car?
I have the car.
Good. You give her back $600 that she put down on a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You can only take up so much lies at a time, and then when it's done, it's done.
I paid as much as I did all along, and that doesn't seem to be good enough.
When you sit here and tell me that you've paid for things, then I turn around and stuff's getting shut off. That's bad.
Tattoo artist Jason Pauls is suing his former employee's girlfriend, 26-year-old student Cheryl Mayers, for throwing a brick through his storefront window.
Mr. Pauls, the defendant was the girlfriend of an employee of yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And for some reason you got into a verbal discussion with her. According to your complaint, she threw a brick through your storefront window. It cost you $1,500 to replace the window. You want her to pay for it. The defendant says that she threw the brick at your window, even though you didn't see it. She acknowledges she threw the brick at the window. But she says when she threw the brick at the window, it didn't break.
She threw the brick several.
Just a second. So you weren't there, so I'm going to just go right to Miss Mayers. Why did you throw the brick at his window?
He had went down to Florida where my boyfriend was working and claimed that I slept with 3 different guys while I was back home waiting for surgery and working.
Okay, so he was spreading rumors about you.
Yes,
and you heard about it. Mm-hmm. And what did you do?
I was okay at first with me and Wade arguing, but then Jason Paul's girlfriend at the time and Jason Paul's himself started threatening me. And so with everything...
Just a minute. Go ahead.
Anyways, with everything that was going on at the time and all the pressure, you know...
So what did you do? You got into your car?
So I got in my car. I went by 2 of the guys that house that I had been accused of sleeping with, and cussed them out.
First you cussed out the 2 guys because you thought that they had started these rumors. Yeah. And what time of the day or evening was this?
10:15.
In the evening?
Yeah.
And after you got finished cursing at them, could you stand still?
No.
After you got finished cursing at them, you got back in your car. And where did you go?
I went by Jason Paul's shop on Governor's Drive and tossed a brick at the window.
Okay, now just a minute. Let's go slowly. You got back in your car and you went to where his shop was. And everything, I assume, at that time was closed.
No, ma'am. I mean, businesses were still open and operating, but he was in Florida, so his tattoo shop was closed. Yes, it was.
When you got to his shop, did you already have the brick?
Yes, ma'am.
Where had you gotten the brick from?
I picked it up from the parking lot from the last people's house that I left.
So you grabbed it because your intention was to take the brick and to go and throw it in the window.
Ma'am.
That was your next stop. So you got out of the car?
Yes, ma'am. Stood by my door of my car.
How close were you to the window when you threw it?
Approximately from me to you.
And then what did you do?
Just tossed it.
And then did you get right back in your...
back down into my car and left.
And left. So what is your defense to this action?
I did not see the glass break. I knew that it had hit the window, and I left. But I did not hear no glass shatter. Apparently there was some type of plexiglass or something, but it's not, pure glass like what a house window would be.
So you threw the brick at the window, you jumped in your car, and you left?
Yes, ma'am.
And your defense is that I didn't see the window shatter?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. Can I see the bill for the window?
Yes, ma'am. I do have a bill from the window, but I also have a police report which states that the window was shattered.
There's no question in my mind the window was shattered.
Here's the back side of my check where I paid to have my front door that was shattered replaced. Here's an estimate for the glass where she had thrown it repeatedly and scarred the glass up in letters.
I just want to see the bill for the glass window that she shattered.
That would be this. That would be the check.
Well, that's for what? The window or a door?
The window. The door, excuse me. It's the door, the front door.
Well, is the front door glass?
Yes, ma'am. It states it in this police report.
Oh. The front window is $341?
Yes, ma'am. I also have...
Just a minute. And the door was $450?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did I have to replace the whole front door? Was that all glass?
It was one-piece glass. I have a picture of it, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it, please.
I also have pictures of the scarring on the other windows and the hole in the wall where the brick went through and it actually hit the wall on the other side.
Who are you?
I fixed the door and everything while Mr. Pauls was in Florida. I was the first person on the scene.
Oh, I see.
After the police had showed up, and
It's not necessary.
okay.
It's not necessary. How old are you?
26.
Do you work?
No, ma'am. Not at this time.
How do you support yourself?
Currently, I'm not employed. No.
Well, how do you support yourself?
I don't.
How do you live?
I receive a check each month.
From what?
$200 for
From what?
back child support.
You have a child?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a child who lives with you?
No, ma'am. He's not currently living with me neither.
Who's the child live with?
His father.
Would you like to see the police report as well?
Not necessary.
Your Honor, I also have an itemized list of what it's going to cost to have all the letters and everything replaced on the front window.
Let me see it. It's going to cost you $1,211. I'm not giving you credit for $165.63 for gas.
It's what
You can
it took
try.
for me to come back up there to have the window replaced.
You can have the window replaced by having one of your friends take care of it. Listen, just because you didn't see this window break because you got in your car too fast doesn't mean that you didn't break the window. It's ridiculous to try to blame somebody else for doing it. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,211. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She admitted to busting the window out.
I don't go around slandering no one else's name, so I appreciate it. He keep my name out of his mouth.
There was pieces of brick all over the place.
I didn't bust the window.
It looked like she stood out there 20 minutes trying to get the window to shatter.
He's never been my friend, so there's no friendship to retrieve.
Yeah, I think she took a whole truckload of
Friend, 23-year-old debt negotiator Jennifer Yu and Jennifer's brother, Jay Yu, for the return of her Maltese, named Penny.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 337 on the calendar in the matter of Shin versus Yu. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Ms. Shin, it is your allegation that the defendants offered to watch your dog for you because the place where you were living didn't accept dogs.
Yes, correct.
And now they refuse to give her back.
Yes, correct. I've had this dog since
Just
the birth.
wait a second.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Just a sec, please. Please don't talk. I do talk. You do answer. When did you turn the dog over to the defendants?
April 22nd of this year.
And when for the first time did you ask for the dog back?
In the beginning of October. But we had an agreement.
Just a second. So they had the dog for a little over 6 months.
Yes.
This was a friend of yours?
Yes.
How long had you been living in your apartment?
I've been living there for 8 months.
Before the dog was turned over to them?
Yes.
And the dog was living with you for 8 months?
My sister...
Don't tell me your sister. The dog was living with you for that 8-month period?
Temporary.
Was living with you?
Yes. That's a lie, Your Honor.
Just a second. So why all of a sudden did you turn the dog over to the defendants?
I lived with my sister, and I moved out in December of last year. My landlord wouldn't let me keep the dog, so I had asked my sister to take care of it for me, but she was pregnant at the time, so she could not take care of the dog. So I had asked Jennifer, I have known her for over 10 years, and I had asked her if she could watch my dog until I find a new place where I could take Penny back, and she agreed.
How old is this dog?
He's now 2 years old now.
All right. So the dog lived with your sister, and then you moved into a place where you lived for 8 months. The dog did not live with you. You gave the dog to them, another 6 months. So all in total, how many months did the dog live with you?
Year and a half. That's a lie.
This is 2 years old. Yeah. The math doesn't work out there, Miss Shin. How often in the 6 months that the dog was living with the defendants did you visit with the dog?
At least once every week, sometimes every day.
That's
at
a
least
lie.
Once every week. I went by, my sister went by to visit.
I'm not talking about your sister. I'm talking about you. How often did you go to visit with this dog during the 6-month period?
At least once a week, once every week.
To see me, not the dog.
So once a week. How far did you live from the defendants?
5 minutes away.
So you could have gone over every day.
Sometimes I went over every day. I went over there every chance I could.
They were friends, I mean...
We were friends. She came to see me, not the dog. I mean, yeah, when she came, she saw the dog, but she never ever called me once to say that she's going to come see Penny. It was because
Your
we
Honor,
had plans...
that's a lie.
No, we had plans...
Just a second.
We had plans that maybe she came over to see me.
Just a second.
And she never had possession of the dog.
Did you say... Hey.
Listen.
How much money did you give the defendants in the 6-month period to take care of the dog? Food, vet bills, grooming bills?
I did not give them any cash. When she first came over to my house...
So the answer is you gave them nothing?
I gave them all the supplies. Big bag of dog food, shampoo, conditioner, dog's bed, everything.
That was just left over from
Just
when
a
she had
second.
it.
I'm talking about in the 6 months the dog was there, not when she first took the dog, which is the supplies that you had in the house. I'm talking about if she was merely babysitting for this dog for you. It would seem to me you would have an arrangement to say, look, I don't want you to spend any money on... What kind of dog is that, a Maltese?
Maltese, yes.
I don't want you to spend money on grooming, on vet bills, on food or anything else. You're just watching this dog for me. I want to pay you.
I have the grooming bills here, too.
If they do have it, I've told them I'm willing to pay for it.
That's not what I'm
the
asking
point.
you. So you lived in your apartment for 8 months, and they had the dog for 6 months. Then you went and found a new place to live.
Yes.
And the new place allows dogs.
Yes.
So you want the dog back.
Yes.
What is your version of how the dog came into your possession?
Okay, basically, she never had possession of their dog, Penny. Her sister, took care of Penny. She was giving birth, and she couldn't have a dog in the house. She asked me for a favor, if I could give Penny a new home. And I told her that I'm going to ask my brother, because I live with my parents and my brother, and I know my brother loves dogs. So I never owned a dog myself, so I didn't know. So I told her that, I'll ask my brother and my family. I told her maybe a couple days or a week later that my brother was willing to take care of the dog. And there was times before they gave Penny up, they sold this dog, once before, and they got it back. I mean, who gives a dog away?
When did they sell the dog before?
A couple months before, they sold the dog, they took it back.
Then now they gave it to us and just
and then
under what circumstances? Do you know the story about how they sold it?
Yeah, they just wanted to get rid of the dog because they knew they couldn't house the dog.
Just a second.
It wasn't convenient for them.
Yeah,
and they think that they can give this dog a new home anytime that it's inconvenient for them.
Just a minute. Who did they sell the dog to?
They put an ad out and they sold it to someone.
Did you put an ad in the paper for the dog?
Yes, I did.
When?
In November of last year. Because at that time, my sister was pregnant. I was living with my sister. I had no intentions of moving out. So my sister was pregnant. We could not take care of my dog. So I put out an ad in the newspaper, and someone wanted to buy it for $300. They had it for a day, and my sister kept crying. She could not sleep, eat. She had a hard time getting over it. So we called them back, and we told them that we want our dog back. Is there any possible way if we could buy the dog back? They said, well, we paid $300 for it, and we took Penny to the vet, grooming. Are you willing to pay all the fees that we pay for? So we paid them double, $600, to bring Penny back.
And because, just a second, because your sister couldn't sleep?
We sold Penny.
No. Because your sister couldn't sleep. That's what you said.
She couldn't sleep. She was crying. She was having a hard time getting over Penny.
Fine, but then your sister said, I can't take care of Penny anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
No, we bought Penny back, so we brought Penny back. And then I moved out in December.
And then your sister said, I can't take care of Penny
anymore. That's why I had it temporary. I had it in my apartment without my manager knowing, and my manager found out that I had a dog, and he told me that I cannot keep my dog in my apartment. That's when I asked Jennifer.
You didn't say to me that when you sold this dog before to somebody else, you thought you made a mistake. You couldn't sleep at night. You couldn't eat. You said your sister.
Me and my sister.
No, that's not what you said.
No,
you said my sister. You said my sister.
I am the one who paid $600 out of my pocket to bring Penny back. I'm the one that drove over there to Torrance.
If it was that hard for you to get over
to bring Penny back.
Don't.
And then
what?
Without telling my manager, I had it. I snuck Penny into my apartment. I kept him for a while, and then my manager found out. He told me that I need to either move out or take Penny to somewhere else. So I brought Penny back to my sister, and then that's when Jennifer offered me.
Just a second. You brought the dog back to your sister, and your sister said, I can't manage a dog because I'm pregnant now.
Penny was only there for a week.
Did you hear what I said? Your sister said to you, I can't take her now, because otherwise you would have left the dog with your sister, right? Right? I mean, if you moved into a place where you couldn't keep the dog, and your sister, who couldn't sleep at night 2 months before, she would have said, fine, I'll keep Penny until you find another place to stay. But your sister said, I can't keep her.
She was pregnant. That's why I kept it in my apartment. Without my
So she got
manager's
over
approval.
being hysterical.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sharon Shin says former friend Jennifer Yu and her brother Jay Yu refused to return her Maltese named Penny. Jennifer and Jay say Sharon abandoned the dog.
My next question to you, Miss Shin, is if you had the kind of love and affection that you seem to want me to believe that you had for this dog, why didn't you find an apartment in a month?
I tried to. I found
2 months.
The place that I
3
moved,
months. 4 months.
The place that
6 months later?
Yes, but I trusted these people. They had agreed that they would watch Penny for me until
Miss
I
Shin,
could
that's
find
not
a
what
place.
that's not what I'm saying to you. We're not talking about a cup or a desk or a pair of glasses. We're talking about an animal that has a feeling. You want to know how I know? Just stand there for a minute and I'm going to show you. This one's mine. This one's mine. Lulu, come sit here with me. This one's mine. When I went to find a new apartment and the landlord said, you can't have a dog, I don't care if they were offering me a palace. It's not worth it. Because if a dog is part of your life, is part of your soul, you don't move into a place where you can't have a dog. And you don't give up a dog for 6 months and let it bond with another family and then say, I want it back. You don't do that.
Thank you.
You don't do that. That's outrageous.
Yes, but
go buy another dog.
That's what they told me, Your Honor.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Go buy another dog.
Your Honor, I've had this dog since the birth.
You've never had this dog.
Just a minute. No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. You didn't. The dog lived with your sister.
I
then
lived
the dog
with
lived
my
with
sister.
them.
I lived with my sister for a year
Listen
after
to
she
me.
gave birth.
You lived with your sister. Then your sister had the dog. Then you moved into an apartment for 8 months. Then they had the dog for 6 months.
7 months.
7 months. Now you want the dog back? You're not bonded with this dog. Because if you were bonded, you would not have moved to an apartment where you couldn't have dogs. That's the first question you ask. You say, I have a pet. So if you move into a place that says no pets, you say no pets, no me. And you go someplace else. But you don't let your dog bond with another family and then say, I want it back. This is not an animal that you've had for 10 years. You had this animal, all told, maybe for a year. But not the last year. The last year, they've given this dog a home and affection and attention. So if you want another Maltese, go buy one.
Your Honor, this dog belongs to me.
Not anymore. Your case is dismissed.
Your Honor,
goodbye.
please. I have the evidence here.
You may step out.
This isn't fair. They agreed that they'll watch dogs for me until I find a place. It's a temporary agreement. And now they're saying, they're denying the whole fact that they... I trusted these people.
She's just inconsiderate and she's very selfish, obviously, because she just thinks that this is Penny's an object, and it's not. She can't give it away anytime she feels like it's inconvenient to her and take it back whenever.
Teacher Laura White is suing her ex-fiancé, 30-year-old artist Jeremy Kamara, for credit card charges. Jeremy says Laura forgave the debt when she decided to keep the engagement ring.
Miss White, while you were dating the defendant, you decided to do one of the foolish things that people do, and you got a credit card for him. I assume your credit wasn't good enough to get a credit card yourself. Is that right?
Yes, I guess so.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And on that credit card, there was a zero balance, and you purchased nothing on that credit card. Is that right?
Correct.
He had sole custody of credit card.
Yes.
He put some car repairs on the credit card, and he also bought you an engagement ring on the credit card.
Yes.
When you broke up several months later, you say that while he paid you some money, he did not pay the balance. And with charges, etc., it comes to about $1,300. The defendant says that you elected to keep the engagement ring, so he shouldn't have to pay for that, and that he did pay some money, but because you elected to keep the engagement ring, he doesn't feel as if he has to pay anything else. Is that right, sir?
Yes, it is. That's right.
Do I scare you?
No.
Then speak up. Let me see the credit card bills. Let me see the ring. I see you've got a box there. I assume you're willing to give him back the ring?
Yes.
Perfect. Why did you want to keep it to begin with?
I never wanted to. I just kind of kept it for collateral.
Oh, it's lovely.
I didn't ever want the ring, but he still owed the money, so
And he said if I didn't give it back,
Listen
I
to me.
wouldn't.
First, you don't speak loudly enough so that I can hear you, and then you talk to her. You don't talk to her. You talk to me. Okay, she's got certain amounts here that you paid, sir. She says that on December 7th, you paid $100. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
$36.50 on another date by check number 598. Another payment of $100. And she's got the check number. Another payment of Laura paid $36.
Yeah.
What did you pay that for?
He wasn't paying me. There were only certain months that he did pay me
And
money.
then she paid again $40 because the account became delinquent. And then he paid $35 in cash back in, looks like June. And Laura paid $34 just to keep the account out of collections. Then her mother paid $400.
After she got the ring back.
What do you mean after she got the ring back?
After she got the ring back, I didn't have to pay none of the money on the ring no more. I just had to pay for the car that got fixed.
Well, now you're going to get the ring back. She doesn't want to pay for it.
I don't want to have anything to do with the ring or nothing.
Let me understand this. You want her to keep the engagement ring, then pay the credit card.
I was going to pay the remainder of the bill, what I owed on my car, and she was going to keep the ring and she was going to pay it off. That's what I had given it back to her. That's what the whole thing was.
I don't understand you. You're mumbling. You have to speak up.
I gave her the ring back, and I wasn't going to have to pay for it. She was going to keep the ring and do whatever.
You mean you had an agreement to do that?
Yeah. And I missed $150.
When did, just a second, when did you make the agreement that she would keep the ring?
Right after she didn't want to deal with it no more. I just said, I'll give it back to you, and I don't have to pay anything except
Would you talk? I mean, it's hard for me to understand him.
I was sick and tired of trying to get him to pay. I was desperate at the time.
I missed 2 months.
So I took the ring.
Sure.
I took the ring back,
Wacko.
and I asked my mom to help me out with it, just so I could get the balance down. And so I took the ring back, just saying, give it to me. And I never wanted to be responsible for it, though. So that's why I have it now.
You had given it to him back when you said we're off, the engagement is off?
When the engagement was off, he came over to my house and took it out of my jewelry box.
Oh, he did?
Because I wasn't going to pay for it if I didn't have the ring, you know what I'm saying?
Are you speaking to her?
Yeah.
He came to the house and took the ring back.
Yes.
And then when he wasn't paying on the account regularly, you took the ring back.
I got him to give it back to me, yes.
Okay, and that's why it's here.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Kamara, you get the ring back and you pay the bill. Do you understand?
That's what I would have done in the beginning. I missed one
Well, you missed how many payments?
One payment.
That's not
Or two
true.
payments.
Mr. Kamara, if you're making little teeny payments of $35, of $40, then what happens, Mr. Kamara, is the interest keeps building up. And you know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Eventually you're going to get tired of paying for this thing that you don't have any appreciation for.
I never would have stopped paying for the ring. I gave it back to her because she wanted it. And then I would have paid it still.
No, she didn't want
I
it
don't
back,
want
sir.
it. I
I
don't- I
got
don't
news
wash
for
my
you.
hands cleaner.
This lady doesn't want this ring back.
That's fine.
This lady wanted collateral because you weren't paying as you were supposed to pay and her credit was going down the toilet. Judgment for the plaintiff and the amount requested, $1,300. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He deserves to pay for what was his responsibility.
She's just freaking out. She's just weird in the head, you know.
This guy made me think that he was an aspiring artist, and all he is a stock boy.
She's just like money-hungry chick, you know, didn't want to do nothing, just wants everything given to her.
Money hungry. I have like tens of thousands of dollars in debt for going to school and getting a degree and a master's and everything else, so.
Stay away from her, you know.
I think justice was served.
Watch out for that chick, you know.
Any girls out there that knows this guy, just
31-year-old tattoo shop owner Dave West for the cost to remove a tattoo.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the cargo room, please. Quiet, please. Yes, case number 364 on the calendar in the matter of Bruce versus West. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
All right, the facts in this case are relatively simple. What is your first name?
My name is Kira Bruce.
Kira, you are 17 years old.
Yes.
Decided you wanted a tattoo.
Correct.
You went to the defendant's tattoo parlor.
Sure.
What
That's
they-
acceptable.
And presented him with a fake ID and got your tattoo.
Yes.
Then you came home and your mother had a Shrek. You know what a Shrek is? She had a fit.
Good. I thought that was a movie.
Well, somebody took the word and made a movie out of it. But she had a fit. And you and your mother are suing the defendant because your mother believes that he should pay for at least half of the cost of removing the tattoo. Is that what this case is about?
That's exactly what it's about.
Easy. I have a few questions. When did you get the tattoo, Kira?
The beginning of October.
Had you ever had a tattoo before?
I had started one a few days before I got the one at Body Bazaar, yes.
You mean you started one but didn't finish it?
Correct.
At a different tattoo parlor?
Correct.
Why didn't you finish it?
I was nervous and I just kind of got up and paid him and left.
Okay. So the beginning of October you got this tattoo. What does it say? What is it?
It's my last name. It's
Bruce?
A fairy, yes. And then
You don't have a boyfriend named Bruce?
No.
Yeah, she told us.
We don't shout out in court. Now, when you went in, did you go in alone? Were you with someone else?
I was alone.
And you saw the defendant?
Oh, I never met Dave West until it all came back with my parents.
Okay. You saw somebody else who worked in the shop?
Yes.
Is that person in court today?
Yes.
Which one? Raise your hand.
Both of them?
You. Were you the one who did the work?
Yep, did the verse tattoo on her, yes.
Okay, could you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Kevin Augustine. How you doing?
Don't ask me questions.
Kevin
Ask questions.
Augustine.
Augustine.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Augustine, when Kira came into the shop, did you ask her for identification?
Yeah, that's normal procedure.
What did you say to her?
They give us California driver's license and they fill out a consent form.
Do you have her form?
Yeah, we do.
May I have it, please?
There's two separate ones for the two different dates that she came in.
She came in on 2 dates.
2 different occasions.
So you didn't finish on the first date and she came back?
No, she started the tattoo at a tattoo studio a few doors down. Then she came to us and got the tattoo she had started at the other studio. She got colored in. Then about a month, maybe about a month later, she came back in, brought the same ID, presented her ID, and got a whole nother separate tattoo.
Okay. Do you have the driver's license that you presented to the defendants when you...
It was not a driver's license, it was a California ID.
California ID.
Yes, we do have that, and if you'll note, the height, the weight, and the face don't match my daughter. Also, on the consent form that she signed, the person going in actually fills out the information. On the first copy of October 1st, her date of birth is listed as 8/19/01. On the consent form dated October 3rd, it's 9/18/83.
Oh, okay.
So
not very hard. Now, she came home to see you, and she showed you the tattoo?
No, she didn't, actually. I had been in Southern California for 9 weeks caring for my father, who just recently passed away.
Who was staying with her?
Her father and her brother. But when I returned home, my house was a shambles, you know, teenagers and a dad that eats pizza. So I happened to stroll through her room, and I looked down on the floor, and I saw a letter. It was folded, and I picked it up, and it said, "I love my tattoo," a little heart. So I thought, I better read the rest of this letter. And I said, "Dear James, sorry. I hope you're not mad at me for getting another tattoo." And then I ricocheted off of the walls. And so when I picked her up from dance that evening, I confronted her about it, and she showed me these tattoos. Then after that, we went to visit the tattoo parlors.
Miss Bruce, I'm going to stop you there. When are you going to be 18, Kara?
September 3rd.
Not so far away. Do you still like your tattoos?
Yes, I do.
Now, your mother wants you to have them removed. Is that a painful procedure?
Yes.
Look, she got these false IDs. I'm not going to even ask her where she got these IDs from. She presented them. She doesn't look as if she's 12 years old. She certainly looks as if she could be over the age of 18. And as long as she acknowledges, and I have certainly here in writing, she signed giving her consent, indicating, swearing to the fact that she was over the age of 18. Sometimes people, when they write their date of birth, transpose the current year, 01, for their actual date of birth. The answer is yes. So they did what they were supposed to do. The only one who didn't do what they were supposed to do was your daughter.
Okay.
Your daughter. And your daughter is 17. In less than a year, she's going to be 18. She's going to be of the age of majority. Why wouldn't you, instead of bringing this lawsuit against the defendants, say to your daughter, you have to accept responsibility for what you did. You either got or passed off a fake ID. You knew that you weren't supposed to do this. This is something that in our house, in any event, we would oppose, and you did it anyway. And you did it in a sneaky fashion. Now you've got these tattoos. If you want to have them removed, get a job, pay for them to have them removed when you're 18. We're not talking about a 6-year-old child. We're talking about someone who is 7 or 8 months away from being a legal adult. Why do you think that these people are responsible?
It was my understanding that she did not show an ID to Kevin, that the only person who saw her ID at any time in this tattoo parlor was an apprentice by the name of Andrew or Dave.
Doesn't make any difference, Mrs. Bruce. Someone at the tattoo parlor said to her, "Can I see your ID?" She said, "Yes, here's my ID." Then they had her fill out a form. Now, the person who actually did the tattoo didn't have to recheck, just as if you go into a hospital and you're having surgery, you go into an admitting office. In the admitting office, you fill out all kinds of forms, including consent forms. When you're laying on the operating table, the surgeon doesn't say to you, "By the way, I'd like to see your identification and fill out some forms again." They're done before, so that when you go in for the procedure, it's all finished. All that paperwork is all finished. Your daughter did the wrong thing. Do I look like I need help from you?
No.
Then why are you raising your hand?
I just wanted to add something to it. I tattooed on her also. If you look at the...
Just a minute.
Okay.
I didn't say yes.
Okay. I apologize.
Do you understand? What I'm saying to you, wait 10 months, and if she wants to have the tattoo removed, she'll have it removed. Don't be mad at them. You gotta be mad at her.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Irene Bruce says Dave West owes for removing a tattoo from her 17-year-old daughter, Kira. Dave says Kira used a fake ID.
Okay. You got to put the blame where it belongs. The blame belongs with your daughter. If she had gone into that tattoo parlor and nobody said to her, "Let me see your ID," I say, you got a case. But they asked for her ID. She had a fake ID.
That looks nothing like her, I'm sorry.
I want to tell you something. I like to look at my driver's license and say it looks nothing like me, too. I look at my passport and I say, who is this person?
Right.
All right? So.
But she is neither 5'3" or 100 pounds. And if
I lie on my passport, I lied on my driver's license. I've been 100 pounds now since I was 8 years old. It doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
It's her responsibility. You can't transfer that to them.
Okay.
But if she wants to take it off, let her get a job.
Okay.
Let her pay for it.
She does. Okay. The other thing, when I visited the tattoo parlor, I spoke with Kevin. We called Dave, who said if he was going to have to pay to have this tattoo removed, that he wanted the sheriff called and my daughter arrested. I did call the sheriff from the studio. There were 3 officers that were present. They did state that it was a civil matter and that we needed to resolve it between us.
Because you wanted your daughter arrested.
Don't speak to her. Look at me.
Sir, I can't abide lies when they're presented in front of me, ma'am.
Don't
Thank
speak.
you.
I can't abide speaking out. Go ahead.
I did tell the officer that if they needed to arrest her, she needed to be responsible for her actions, and whatever their decision was, she would have to live with it. But they advised us to work it out in an amicable way. So Dave West did sign an agreement to pay half of the cost of the removal of the tattoos that were put on her body by Body Bazaar. He also requested that I obtain an estimate for the cost of the removal of the tattoos,
Just a minute.
which I did.
You signed this on October 27th that you would help pay half the cost of removal of her tattoos? Sir, this is your
Yes,
handwriting?
basically I signed. I was forced into signing it. There's 3 cop cars in my driveway blocking my driveway to my business. She said basically that she wasn't going to leave until I signed a piece of paper saying that I would help her pay for it. I got people trying to pull in my driveway. They can't come in. I'm losing business.
Listen to me, sir. All you do is go outside and say to the police, I have asked this woman to leave my shop. She refuses to leave my shop. She is now trespassing. Have her removed.
I wasn't aware of that. I did. Well, I was under a lot of stress. I had 3 cops at my business.
You may have been a lot of other stress,
I had
but
an
you signed
mother
this.
forcing me.
You signed this piece of paper.
I sure did, under duress. I was basically forced into it. I was under a lot of stress. I had cops at my business.
Mr. West, ignorance of the law is no excuse. I would dismiss the case. I'm telling you right now, this case would be over. I don't believe it's your responsibility. But you agreed to not pay half. It says, I, Dave West, will help pay half of the cost of removal of the tattoos. He doesn't say he's going to pay half. He says he'll help pay half. Now, that may be semantics, but since I feel as if it's so unjust for him to pay everything, or even half, I'm going to interpret what he says based upon the exact letter of this note, which says I will help pay half. And the total amount is a couple of $1,000. Half of that would be $1,000. So he's going to help pay half of the $1,000. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's your responsibility. Deal with it.
I still feel that he's responsible for accepting an identification that did not look anything like her.
She basically committed a crime. We were victims of it.
I wanted the tattoos.
We were a professional operation.
The tattoos should be removed.
Noah Joyner and Harland Hendrickson are suing their former employer, Christopher Ricks, for unpaid wages and vandalism.
Court come to order. All rise.
Seat, please.
Case 2094, Joyner Hendrickson versus Ricks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that I'm going to start out with Mr. Joyner. Who is that? That would be you, because we start with you. He came in later to this scenario, is that right?
Right.
So let me try to understand, Mr. Joyner, what it is that you're suing the defendant for, considering what you wrote to me in your complaint. You were looking for a job. Whatever business you had went south, and you didn't have any money.
That's not true.
Well, let's see.
It was said like that, but we did not lose a...
After losing my jewelry business.
Yes, ma'am. That's not right.
Well, that's what you signed in your complaint.
Yes.
So I can only go by what you signed in your deposition. That you lost your jewelry business, that's what it says. Anyway, you were looking for a job. The defendant has a theater, among other businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sought out the defendant, Mr. Joyner?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you sought him out.
I was vending at a coffee shop. I was vending my jewelry. It's not a lost business.
Would you just get on to how you met him?
Definitely. So I was vending there, and I saw at the theater Pride Weekend. So I had called Chris Ricks, said, hey, is it okay if I come up there and vend my jewelry?
Just a second. So you called him. Was his name on the poster? How did you find him?
I just called the theater's number, and he answered.
Okay, so you weren't calling him, you were just calling the number.
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked him, can I come and sell my jewelry at your theater? When was that?
That was Wednesday, June 16th, 2022.
Okay, and you were having some sort of an event?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Joyner come and set up his jewelry booth?
They did, in fact.
Were they charged for that?
No, I did not. I
So-
just simply offered the space. They kind of told me their backstory and that they were having financial troubles, and I was trying to do a good deed for the community.
Okay, so you were not charged for the space?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And you went up there on what date to sell your jewelry?
We started Thursday night, June 17th, 2022.
When you say we, is that you?
All three of us, yes.
Okay, so did you sell any jewelry?
A little bit.
So not much, not enough for the three of you spending a day on the 17th. And then how did it come about that you sought out a job from Mr. Ricks? Because you did seek a job. On what date did you ask him if there was any work?
Thursday night. Thursday the 16th.
And what were you supposed to do?
Supposed to bartend, open, close.
That's not accurate.
I'll get to you.
And
what
run
were you
concession
supposed
stand.
to do?
And run the concession stand. Bartend, close, open, and run the concession stand.
During what hours?
4 p.m. that day till 12 a.m., 1 a.m. that night. Could not really remember.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes.
And you weren't selling your jewelry at that time?
I was going off and on, so anytime he had called me for a different job, I would take that. Sorry.
So the answer is you were doing both.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were doing your own business and doing whatever task Mr. Ricks asked you to do.
Yes.
That was on the 16th. And did he pay you for that work?
Yes, he ended up
And
paying
just
us.
a second. And how much did he give you?
Gave us $264 for that weekend.
Not we.
I gave me $264 that week.
Did he work that weekend?
Yes, we all three worked that weekend.
Doing what?
Everything.
Well,
we
Mr.
opened...
Hendrickson is not suing for any wages from him other than for the painting that he did later. I'm asking you, what did you do for him and when, and how much did you get paid?
I did opening, closing duties for him. I ran a bar.
For how many days?
4 days, Your Honor.
4 days.
In the beginning, but I did pick up more stuff whenever he called me for more opportunities. So he would be like, hey, we have jam band tonight. So I would say, okay, I could work.
Okay, so you worked, say, until June 20th, you said, for 4 days, and then you would work after that period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you stop going to the theater for the purposes of doing anything for Mr. Ricks? Month and day?
Oh.
One of the things you're supposed to have, Mr. Joyner, when you come to court, and if you're suing for wages, is you're supposed to have it right here, right in the front of your brain. What date you started, what date you stopped, what hours you worked, what you did. That's what you're supposed to have. Do you understand? Okay. Mr. Ricks, on what date was the last date you saw Mr. Joyner at your theater doing anything?
Saturday, June 25th.
So it would be a fair statement that certain days you saw him between the 16th of June and the 25th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you told me about the 16th that you started working part-time because you were back and forth between your own business and doing something for him, for which actually he gave you free space to sell your jewelry. Now, when you go someplace, you usually pay for space to sell your jewelry, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I know that because I've had hundreds of cases involving people who rent space in a theater or under a tent or in a yard so that they can sell their jewelry. He gave it to you for nothing.
Yes.
And you're back and forth doing little errands for him on the 16th. Like what? 16th, while you were selling your jewelry. Tell me what you did.
We worked the jam band for him that night.
Not a we. I don't want to hear a we.
I worked the jam band that night. He has like a jazz band that comes in and performs.
What do you mean you worked?
I worked the concession. I opened, closed, bartended for him, anything that he was calling me over to do.
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me.
No, I can tell
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me. Okay, let's go. What did he do, if you remember, on the 16th?
On the 16th, 17th, and 18th, that's when they had their jewelry set up. He did not work my concession stand at all. He did not work for me that time at all.
That's not
true.
He started
working.
Don't speak. Do not speak. Do you see I asked you questions? He was quiet. Now it's his turn to speak. Now you have to be quiet. You understand?
He worked Sunday, June 19th, from 9 to 2, which was 5 hours. That was brunch. He worked June the 22nd. They were late. They arrived at 3:12.
You said they arrived.
Both of them came that day.
On the 20th?
On June the 22nd.
22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time that both Mr. Joyner and Mr. Hendrickson came together?
To work for me in a theater capacity, yes.
Okay. That's incredible. And that was June 19th?
No, that was June the 22nd. But actually, I misspoke. I apologize. They both worked June 19th for brunch. They both worked June the 22nd. On June the 24th, he had a text meltdown, and then he came to work and worked 5 to 9. I have their hours exactly.
5 to 9, and that's just Mr. Joyner or both of them?
They both came on June the 25th, Your Honor.
And worked from when to when?
On the 25th, which is Saturday, he worked from 5:20 to 10:30. He passed on the concession opportunity where he could have made more money.
No, but he worked doing what?
He trailed me. I was trying to teach him managerial type cash in, cash out, etc., and the business situation of the theater, because that's what he proposed to me that he was educated to do. And so
you mean managing a theater?
Yeah, just kind of helped me with open, close duties, overseeing that tasks are done by the other employees, etc.
Okay, so it sounds as if he and Mr. Hendrickson worked for a limited number of days.
Correct.
How many days in total?
In the total project, which is painting.
No, not
just the
painting.
theater. Just the theater.
Just in the theater.
Joyner worked 4 days at the theater, and Harland worked 3 days at the theater.
Okay, and how many?
4, I beg your pardon.
4.
Yes, ma'am.
Your last day of work, that was the 25th of June?
Yes, ma'am. At the theater.
I'm talking about only at the theater.
I think he worked 18 hours, just at a quick glance here.
18 hours during the 4 days.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hendrickson, how many hours did he work on? You don't have anything in front of you, Mr. Hendrickson, so I assume you have nothing. No physical evidence, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, good. How many hours?
Just under 12, actually.
Say 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So one worked 18 hours, one worked 12 hours. Do you have any data to indicate that those hours are wrong?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great.
There was no actual documentation, like we did not have a clock in, clock out, but the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have no data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
It's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay, how much were you paid, Mr. Joyner? Because part of it is your wages that you're requesting for working in the theater. How much in total did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$264.
That's for the theater work?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much, Mr. Hendrickson, did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$204.
Sarah, do math for me, would you please? 18 into 264 and 12 into 204. Now, on what date, Mr. Joyner, because this is where it gets sort of fuzzy to me. So far, this is what I'm getting, that the three of you were trying to start a business that was marginally successful in selling jewelry. So far, do we agree on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. And as part of selling your jewelry, you approached the defendant, and it was really a cold call. You called a regular number, not Mr. Ricks personally, and told him your story. And he said, well, if you want to come down, I'll give you free space to sell your jewelry. And that was within his theater area.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that was very nice of him. And you worked for him, and he showed you the place, he showed you the books, he showed you, you started to do other things. Now, at some point, this is where I go a little fuzzy with you, Mr. Joyner, and maybe you can help me understand you. So you have someone who's been nothing but nice to you so far. On what date did you file a complaint with Alcohol and Beverage Control?
That was July 5th, 2022.
So let me figure this out. So you worked for him at the theater until June 25th. On July 5th, is that what you told me?
Well, after the 25th of June, so we had kind of like a weird period where we were trying to figure out if we still wanted to finish the apartments for him. And
No apartments. We haven't gotten to the apartments yet. I'm going to get to the apartments because he asked you to paint apartments. You went over there, and that's another part of your lawsuit. Just a second. Sarah Rose, how much did Mr. Joyner make per hour?
$14.60.
Minimum wage.
And Mr. Hendrickson
It's 11 in Arkansas.
would be 17 an hour.
And he made 17 an hour.
Correct, for 12 hours at $200.
But there was no actual.
Hours are not correct.
There was no actual documentation. Like we did not have a clock in, clock out. But the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have no data.
Just a second. You have no data.
Right.
He does.
But there's no it's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Yes, ma'am.
You're supposed to keep track.
We're not the business owners.
Just a second. You want the money.
Theater.
Right now, he's paid you more than the minimum wage for being around. I mean, the theater ran for how many years before they worked for you for 6 days?
Been about a year and a half. I bought it during COVID.
Okay, and this was your first time working in a theater.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you had no fund of information. He wasn't paying you for expertise. He was paying you for those few days, and you were following him around, closing a stand, whatever you were doing, and you were paid more than the minimum wage, which is, I assume, more than you made selling your jewelry for the 3 days you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I'm still going to wait for this answer, because at some point after you stopped working for him at the theater, and after you had mulled over some information that you thought you had acquired while you were working for him, I want you to do a step-by-step why you contacted the authorities, because he does have an alcohol license, right? I assume if you have an alcohol, if you contact, don't look at each other. Just look at me. I'm actually the nastiest one here.
Agree.
Well, so alcohol beverage control. So what information, sir, did you give alcohol beverage control that caused the investigation?
Your Honor, he was not the one that called them. I was.
We both called. So what happened during the time that we were working those 4 days, he would serve other people alcohol. He would get on our asses about IDing people, how to sign the papers for ABC, everything. And I made sure to take a picture of the number. I didn't take a picture of the whole document itself.
What are you talking about? What document?
The ABC paper. Whenever we had to sign the paper saying that if we didn't ID someone and the ABC came in and found out about it, we would be fined and we would be held responsible, not Chris. We had to sign those papers.
Okay.
That stuff.
So you signed the papers.
But during that, after we signed that, we noticed Chris was still giving out free alcohol to people, pouring it, wasn't even checking people's IDs. So I called the ABC and I said, I think there's suspicion that he's giving minors alcohol. Because there were people there that were 19 years old that were coming up to us saying, oh, well, yeah, we're 19, but we're cool with Chris and stuff like that in ways. Like they had a way with Chris or whatever, friends with Chris. We just started working there. We don't know the regulars. We don't know what the life is like.
I'm just trying to think of why you would do that for somebody who was, forget whether I believe you or not, forget the loosey-goosey of what you just told me. Maybe he said,
we actually have a recording that he admitted to giving one of our 19-year-old employees alcohol. Because he said...
And? Just tell me, and? I want to know why you called them on July 5th. You were no longer there. Did that have to do with the painting? Was that before or after you started painting?
That was after we started painting.
Of course it was after you started painting. Now, so let's go to the second part of your lawsuit. Second part of your lawsuit involves the work that you both did for him. You have an apartment complex, Mr. Ricks.
Correct.
And that apartment complex contains how many apartments?
20. I bought it as a rehab.
And
it was completely vacant. And
at the time that you asked them if they wanted to paint it, it was vacant, all 20 units?
Correct.
Tell me, how did you approach Mr. Ricks, or he you, about this house painting job?
We were trying to get away from all the stuff that we were seeing and hearing at the theater. So we asked if he had other jobs for us, and he said he had apartments that needed to be painted last week, and that if we could get in there and finish them, great.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to what you just told me. You just told me that you saw things at the theater, that he served somebody that you know who was 19 alcohol, and that was very distressing to you. So distressing that you said to him, do you have any other work for us?
It wasn't just that
just a second.
instance.
Just
no,
a
ma'am.
How many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically, yes.
What do you mean, technically, yes?
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay. Did he take you over to paint the complex in handcuffs? Did he take you over there in a van? Did you ask him for additional work?
He's the only person really in Hot Springs, Arkansas that we felt like we could relate to and feel comfortable working for.
I asked you a very simple question. Give me a very simple answer. Did you ask him for more work?
Yes.
And did he say, I have an apartment complex that needs painting?
Yes.
And did you agree on a price?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the name of the last person that you did painting for? House painting.
I did it for my parents when we built our house, but that's...
Very nice. I also painted a room once in my dining room when I was 24 years old. I actually thought I did a pretty good job. I would not hire myself out as a house painter, but because I painted my parents' living room when I was 12. So the answer is you had
no... The reason why he was asking us to paint, because he couldn't find someone else to paint for him, because he wasn't paying people.
I didn't ask Noah to paint.
Shh.
That's correct.
Just a second. Sir.
I was not asked to paint.
Sir.
No.
Mr. Joyner, you know where your problem is? Your problem is you were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. And then you went, and now I'm speaking. You were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. While you were there, working at the theater, you did nothing about it. Zero. Even if it was true, you did nothing about it.
We didn't want to lose our jobs at the time, Your Honor.
You didn't have jobs at the time. You stopped working for him on the 25th of June. You didn't call alcohol until July 5th, you said, so you were no longer working for him in the theater. So it didn't start to bother you, really. June 22nd, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, 30th, all the way up until July 5th.
The ABC report was not just filed by me, and it wasn't just on July 5th. There was also another instance where it was filed earlier, but that was with them, and there's no evidence about it.
Just a second. You filed July 5th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're going to tell me what happened with the painting, because you finished the painting kerfuffle happened in July, is that right?
Right.
And it was after the painting kerfuffle that you called alcohol beverage.
Yes,
after the painting kerfuffle.
Well, it was during. It was during.
What?
It was during, kind of, almost.
You're getting the feeling that
it
I'm
wasn't
not
just me that
you're
filed
getting,
the report
you're
with
getting,
ABC.
Well, just a second. You mean one of these other people who was also
Harlan
jobless?
filed.
I don't care.
So we shouldn't
Nobody
have, we shouldn't
was
have reported it at all.
No,
So we shouldn't have
no, I'm
reported it?
trying to get to your motive, sir. If it was so abhorrent,
My motive. I have no motive. I am just owed what
don't try to speak over me. Don't try to speak over me. That
No, I'm trying to
doesn't
fight for what I'm
work.
owed.
So far, you're not owed the thing for the theater. Now we're getting to the painting. I'm just trying to see what motivates somebody. And I'm not excusing the fact that if Mr. Ricks serves alcohol to minors, that's not a good thing to do. He can get into real difficulty. They conducted an investigation as a result of the calls. All I have to ask you is this. Do you still have your liquor license?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was it ever revoked?
No. And I've multiple in the state of Arkansas.
So you're not owed any money for the theater. Now we're going to get to the paint. When did you start painting in the complex? Date.
June 27th, 2022.
6/27. Did you paint there 6/28?
Yes.
Did you paint there alone or with Mr. Hendrickson?
Mr. Hendrickson.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint on June 29th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint after June 29th?
No, Your Honor.
So you painted there for 3 days. Is that correct?
Actually, 5 days that I was there. I started on the 23rd.
I was there for 3.
And did you work the 23rd?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th.
Just
7 days.
23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. So you worked weekends?
Yes.
It's not.
Did you work weekends?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th, 7 days.
Well, 7 days. Just a second. Pay attention to me. 7 days includes a weekend,
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. Did you work
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not Sunday.
I'm going to go back to you. Did you work Saturday and Sunday?
I worked the morning of Sunday, and I left 3 hours
All right.
after getting there.
Okay, so forget Sunday. Now, how many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Let me understand what you just said to me. You don't know how many hours in each day, but you calculated them together and came up to 52 hours. Would you repeat what he said to me? Because it's mind-boggling to me.
He said, I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
How do you calculate all the hours? Let me ask my question, sir. How do you calculate up to 52 when you don't remember how many hours you worked each day?
Looking at the text messages and seeing when I got there and when I left, because I texted him when I opened the doors and when I locked up.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically.
What?
Technically, yes.
What do you mean technically yes?
Because they're not completely correct. I didn't text him right when I got there, and I didn't text him right when I was leaving. I texted him when I got home or after I had started.
Okay, let's go back.
A Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson have accused their former employer, Christopher Ricks, of vandalizing Noah's car and refusing to pay wages. Christopher claims they slandered his business.
Now, you have photographs of the place before you started painting and afterwards? You have any photographs?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see them.
It's just the paint on the floor.
Just a second.
Okay, very well.
I have eyes. I can look at the pictures.
So the
I just want to take a look. If I need any.
How they are before we paint them. That's before they're painted, Your Honor.
These are your photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
You painted the floor?
No, ma'am. We had to declutter a couple of units that had stuff.
One unit.
Like that.
Shh, don't speak. You had to, what you call declutter, and you had to sweep it up before you started painting.
It was worse.
Okay. And did you?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this a picture of what you allege it looked like?
All of the units had stuff in them just like that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this is the floor that you painted?
Yes.
Is that the floor that they painted?
One of the 3.
Okay. So they painted the floors. Did you paint anything else other than the floors?
Well, we painted the walls.
They painted the walls. They dripped on the floors. They are.
Okay.
They're brand new flooring.
We were told it didn't have to be perfect.
Just a second. You didn't put these floors in, did you? I thought they painted them.
No. They were to do touch-up only, and there was one unit that needed to be finalized, and that was the one you saw that was bad.
We were having to
the floors were.
I told you, don't speak when he is. I'll come back to you.
The floors were brand new, and like I said, I provided drop cloths and such. They didn't use them.
That's not true. Shh. What is this?
That's the one unit that was not completely emptied out.
Okay. This one.
Yeah, there was one single unit.
And this one.
That's the same unit.
And this.
Same unit.
Okay. And the rest of them were cleaned out.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
All new floor.
Yes, the pictures of the, yes.
The pictures of the mess are all one unit of the 20. Okay. And how many units did they paint for you, Mr. Ricks?
They didn't finish any of the units. They were in 3 units, Your Honor.
Okay.
And 3 units have damage.
Okay. What you're telling me is they didn't do a good job in 3 units.
Correct.
Okay. Well,
They
that,
didn't finish it at all.
that, I'd like to see the photographs of what they didn't finish.
The paper copies, there you go. And there should be one that's a door that's not even painted. You can see it's two-tone. And the flooring is where they, I guess, scraped the floor.
Okay. This is the same picture as this.
No, that's different. I can show you on my phone, too, if you'd like. They're different. It's like in one of the areas, they tried to use a tool to scrape paint off in different areas, and that's what was left.
You're talking about...
That's not true. There was no tools provided for us at all.
Justice, I didn't ask you anything. Is what you're saying to me, sir, that the reason you didn't... I assume you weren't paid for this work. Is that correct?
No, not even for cleaning out that unit, really.
Weren't paid. Now, I assume, Mr. Ricks, that you didn't pay them because you thought that they did a poor job.
No, ma'am, that's not accurate.
Why didn't you pay them?
They didn't do the job.
They worked there at some point.
I agreed with Harland only to pay him $3,000.
Harland, that was you.
Yes.
That's you. You agreed with Harland.
For that job.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's
for
incorrect.
$3,000.
You're almost finished. Do you understand? You're almost done. 1, 2, 3 warnings, then I'm finished with you. And it wouldn't bother me at all. I have to tell you, it wouldn't bother me at all. Now, what arrangement did you make as far as payment is concerned?
On June...
Mr. Hendrickson started the job first on June 23rd.
He was to meet me, and he did. He was late. He was supposed to meet me early. I showed him the whole scope of the project because he hadn't been there, and what I wanted done, what I expected. And we agreed on the price of $3,000. And after they got halfway done, which was 10 units, I would pay them $1,500. And then when they were complete, I would pay the entire $3,000. They didn't get past 3, Your Honor.
3 of the 20.
Yes, ma'am. And they didn't finish any of those at all.
Okay. What I'm saying to you, Mr. Ricks, you took one guy.
Right.
Who you didn't know from a hole in the wall.
Yes, ma'am.
You took a second guy who you knew was there because I believe that you knew he was there painting with Mr.
Right.
Joyner.
Mr. Hendricks actually fired him twice. You can see in text message if you need to see that.
You mean Mr. Hendrickson fired Mr. Joyner?
Yeah, he says right here.
Just a second.
Well, let me just pull up the text message since it's so
But you
accurate.
do know that Mr. Joyner was there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It was a group. They decided to do a group thing. This is right here it says, never mind, no one's not going to help me anymore.
Group chat.
And then there's an additional where he says again that I'm going to let Noah have a couple of days off.
Just a second. Mr. Hendrickson, so on the 29th, you indicated to Mr. Ricks that Noah, that would be you, is not going to be helping me anymore.
Yes.
Yes, and you want to tell me why?
Noah and I had...
No, look at me.
Noah and I had an argument at the painting job
Tell me about
we were arguing...
Tell me about the argument, sir.
When
did you have it?
About the detail that we were putting into our work. I walked in and Noah was paying a lot of attention to detail, and Chris told me that the job did not have to be perfect. He just wanted it to be done.
Just a second. So Noah was trying to be careful.
Yes.
And you said you don't have to be so careful.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what it boils down to?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was on the 29th.
Yes, correct.
So after that, he said he's not going to work for you anymore.
Correct.
Now, so I gather from that statement that since you were working there since the 23rd, you didn't feel as if you had to be so careful to detail. I mean, that would follow from what you just said to me. If Noah wanted to be more careful to detail, you say, oh, no, you don't have to be so careful to detail. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And goodbye, which is what this says. So I have to assume, conjure up in my mind, that if you doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be such a great job. It can be, as my great-grandmother used to say, there's a difference between a schmearer and a painter.
That's right.
Now, I don't know who would understand that except another Jewish grandmother. But you understand the connotation. You can smear paint. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter who can smear paint on a wall. But if I want something professionally done, I try to get a painter.
I told Chris I was not a professional.
Just a second. You see, that's my problem with Mr. Ricks. If you want something done right, get a man, not a boy. Tell me the worst thing he told you to do.
I don't know what you were wanting from me.
What I want you to do is to tell me what he told you about black mold. Don't make it up.
Defendant Christopher Ricks claims Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson slandered his business on social media. Noah and Harlan say they were not paid for painting Christopher's apartment complex.
Now, if I wanted somebody to work on one of my cars, I would not get somebody off the street who was selling popcorn at a concession stand and say to them, by the way, my car over there needs a new battery. Now, would I take my car back to the same dealership? Maybe not, because they're very expensive. But would I find somebody who at least had a referral, a recommendation? I have a 20-unit apartment complex that was empty. You want to use it as a business. You don't hire two schmearers to go and take care of your property. But you have to, if you didn't like their work, fire them. And if their work was not complete and only 3 units were touched, which I don't think that they argue with. So far, that's correct, Mr. Hendrickson?
That is incorrect.
How many units did you
5.
paint? 5.
And I actually painted 7, but I didn't complete the last 2. I just did the trim in it.
So you completed 5 units out of 20.
Yes.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. And you agreed to $3,000.
That's incorrect, Your Honor.
How much?
We did not have a meeting to talk about a payment until the 29th, and that was actually part of the reason that him and I were arguing. Chris and I and Noah met at a coffee shop, and we spoke about how much we would be getting paid. We agreed on a $3,000 price for the end of the month of July because Christopher was supposed to be going on a vacation until July 20th.
So the $3,000 was mentioned.
It was mentioned, and then he told me and Noah, Chris told me and Noah that on the 30th, he would pay us half of what he was going to be paying us.
Just a second. You were hired to paint 20 units.
Yes, Your Honor.
You painted 5, which is 1/4 of the $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say those apartments were complete, not satisfactorily to him, but now you both agree that the $3,000 price was mentioned for the 20 units.
Yes.
It would be $750 if they did 5 units.
That's all, $750. That would be $750 if you completed only 1/4 of them. Okay. Did you pay them any money for painting, yes or no?
No.
Okay, good. So best case scenario for the painting is $750. And I haven't gotten to his counterclaim yet, but you have one more claim. And your claim is that Mr. Ricks vandalized your car by throwing paint on it.
Sure.
Tell me when that happened.
We woke up July 20th, 2020.
7:20. Where did you wake up?
At our house, our apartment. Hot Springs,
Okay,
Arkansas.
tell me what happened.
I woke up to my car being splattered with the same color paint that we were using in his apartments.
Okay, so your car had paint on it when you woke up. Did you see anybody do it?
No, ma'am.
Just let me take a look at the photograph. Okay. Did you file a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. Okay, so no one saw this, but you say that there is a video that you have. I assume, Mr. Ricks, unless you want to tell me that you did, in fact, throw paint primer on his car.
I absolutely did not.
Okay, and you did not see anybody throw paint primer on the car. But you say there was a video. Noah stated that he has video from his apartment complex pointing right at Noah's vehicle.
I think the police put that in there because they had interviewed.
So there is no video?
No, ma'am.
And you did not witness this?
No, ma'am.
And other than thinking that this paint primer was a result of actions in retaliation for something that you did? Do you have any witness that saw him do that?
No, ma'am.
I have to see proof that the defendant had anything to do with this car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Did you take the car in to be cleaned?
Yes, I cleaned it myself just to avoid further damage.
Yes.
But after I cleaned it, I took it to the auto body shop to see what the actual repairs
Okay,
were.
do you have pictures of it after you cleaned it?
After we cleaned it, it looked somewhat like this. And then we had to take it to the body shop. They buffed out the rest of it for us.
So what you're telling me is you took it to an auto body shop, and the auto body shop...
They helped clean up the rest of it, but they still took off our top coat.
Okay, very good. Well, you have no proof he did it. So far, he owes you $750.
May I interject that he doesn't even own that car?
I don't care. I'm not giving him any money for the car. There's no proof you did anything to the car. Okay, I'm not going to get into filing a false ABC complaint with the sheriff, because he's not going to be able to prove to me that it's true other than by what he says are his own observations. He doesn't have anybody here who's under the age of 21 who's going to testify that you served him alcohol. So I'm not going to entertain that part of your claim. Money owed for slander, that I would like to see. That's your cross complaint. So far, plaintiff has $750 for painting 1/4 of the places that he was contracted to do.
This is the first document, and I had calls just pour in, wanting to know if I'd seen it. And
Just a second. Don't tell me you had calls pouring in, sir, because
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
hearsay. What's the date on this? This one that I'm reading. It says 1 day ago.
It was around the first couple of weeks of July.
Okay. I'd like you to tell me, Mr. Joyner, the conversation, where it took place and under what circumstances, when you had a conversation with Mr. Ricks about covering up certain hazards. I'd like to hear that.
What would you like to hear?
I'd like to hear where the conversation took place, exactly what you said to him and what he said to you.
Where it took place?
Yes, where it took place, exactly what you said to him and exactly what he said to you.
I'm confused. So, like, what is...
We are on now...
I know the post about...
A post.
Yeah.
We're on now a post. So I want you to tell me when you had the conversation where you were and what you said to him, mostly what he said to you, about covering up certain things with paint.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So we were told to cover up holes and stuff with caulking and then paint over it. And then we were told that...
Now look at me.
I was told to go declutter one of the units that had a bunch of old parquet tile, ceramic tiles piled high to the ceiling with old ceiling fans deteriorating.
Yeah, that was the unit that was on site.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right.
And?
So he told me that
I want you to tell me the worst thing he told you to do in the apartment complex. Tell me the worst thing he told you to do.
There was a lot of terrible...
No. Just stop and think of what is the worst thing he told you to do, the worst instruction he gave you.
Pretty much that I should just do it without the proper protective...
No, that's general, sir.
Okay.
I asked you specific. You posted something about him, about his apartment complex, about the work that you were doing, and I want you to tell me the worst thing he told you to make short shrift of or to cover up.
Water damage, black mold.
Okay, let's go to black mold. When did you have a discussion with him about black mold? Where were you?
He told me to declutter the apartment. So that would be Wednesday, June...
So there was one apartment that he told you to declutter. Okay, and that would be June what?
Monday, June 27th. I think that's what that...
Was he there in person?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'd like you to tell me what he said to you and what you said to him.
Told me to go...
Look here.
Told me to declutter the unit, take out all of it, throw it away, and to just...
No, don't look over there.
Just to clean it, basically.
To clean it.
So that it would be ready to be painted.
And?
I did. I cleaned it.
And?
I'm done.
You done?
I don't know what else to say. That's...
Well, I want you to clean it. Doesn't tell me anything about black mold.
I don't know what you were wanting from me.
What I want you to do is to tell me what he told you about black mold. Don't make it up. Your post, based upon your testimony, was slanderous.
I got confused. I don't know what you were really trying to, ask out of me.
I asked you specific questions. You gave me answers. Now is not the time to play catch-up.
Defendant Christopher Ricks. claims Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson slandered his business on social media. Noah and Harlan say they were not paid for painting Christopher's apartment complex.
Now, tell me what he told you about black mold.
He didn't tell me anything about the black mold.
Great. And what did he tell you about rat feces?
Didn't tell me anything about rat feces. I handled all that stuff without
Shh. Then you did that all yourself. Well, in this posting you said, Chris, that would be you, wanted us to paint over chips, possible, dust, maybe, mold, never. He never told you that. That's what you just told me. Black mold, rat feces, and urine. He never told you to cover up those things. You may have done it, but according to you, he just said, clean it.
He had told me to cover up the mold that was in
I
the
don't
utility
believe that.
faucets of the apartment.
Oh, I don't believe that. In a second. That's Mr. Joyner.
Yeah, it was Mr.
No,
Joyner,
this is Mr. Joyner's
trying to communicate
post.
together.
And he never told him anything. According to him, he said, just clean it. You have the second post?
That one was taken down, and this is the second post that he reposted, and then his account got blocked because they don't allow that type of behavior. This is the next one, and this is where he claimed to be a bartender on Facebook, and he just took it down recently. It's been up there for months, and I never hired him for a bartender.
That's all right. I don't care. That's not important.
Okay.
What I'm concerned about is what he says that you told him to do, which you did not.
Right.
He acknowledges you did not. Now, you have no witnesses here.
I was going to bring one person, and she's got COVID.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You have no witnesses here.
I have no one, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. I find that the things that you posted are slanderous with regard to what he instructed you to do, Mr. Joyner. You were the posting person as far as covering up black mold, feces, and urine, and therefore to beware of Rick's Realty. Your post, based upon your testimony, was slanderous because he never told you that. So...
but you never really cleared that. I'm sorry. You never really cleared it up. I got confused. I don't know what you were really trying to ask out of me.
No, just a second.
It was
I don't care
told
what...
to me that I needed to take care of all that stuff and throw it away. Yes, ma'am. It was told to me that. That's why I posted. It was a warning as to so no one else would have to deal with that same stuff.
Very good. Very good. I'm ruling now. So now it's my time. I asked you specific questions. You gave me answers. Now is not the time to play catch up. I find that by posting that he instructed you to cover up black mold, people responded to actually, and rat feces, I don't know how you cover rat feces and urine with paint, and to stay away from his place of business without cause, because what you told me was, he told me to clean it up, that's slanderous. And so on the counterclaim that he has for slander, I am awarding him $2,750. That's a net to him of $2,000 because your claim of $750 for wages is absorbed by his counterclaim. So on your claim, you get zero, zippity-doo-dah. I'm awarding him $2,000 for slander. We're done here. Thank you very much.
What about the damages,
we
Your
are
Honor?
finished. Hire a professional, Mr. Riggs. You want a schmearer, that's what you get.
This court is adjourned.
Regardless of terminology and how things got messed up, why would you expect someone to clean up rat feces, all of this stuff, and do it for free?
It's clear no good deed goes unpunished. I tried to help those kids.
Don't understand any of this, really.
Well, they were trying to extort money from me and not do work and be lazy and just get paid for work they didn't do.
We're trying to move on.
We're going to move on.
You kind of try to give people chances when they're down on their luck. I've always been a philanthropist to try to help people out, and sometimes you get burned.
First of all, if you're an employee and you're working either by the hour or by the day, you're not a weekly employee or a bi-weekly salary employee, you're supposed to keep track of the hours where you work, especially if you want to, if there is a potential of suing later for them.
As a plaintiff, that is your burden. I was interested to see that you were willing to take that information from the defendant, because if it were me, if the plaintiff didn't have it, that's not the defendant's burden to prove the plaintiff's case. So I knew you did it to sort of round out the sides of the case, but I think that if you as the plaintiff want to come here and ask the court for money, you better have your ducks in a row. And
well, that's true. That was true. That was probably an error for me. Not that he got anything, but
we got where we needed to go.
We got where we needed to go, but that's true. It's not the defendant's burden.
Yeah.
Although the defendant acknowledged that he worked for him.
He did. Very forthcoming and honest. So, but that again played better for the defendant, as we saw in the ruling, that he was professional.
You're supposed to have your ducks in a row.
Yes, and as a plaintiff, you don't get any money if you can't even keep track of the hours that you work.
The second thing is that the call to alcohol and beverage, you know, if you'd feel as if you're doing a public service by reporting behavior that you think could be potentially dangerous, I support that. But if you're doing it as a retaliatory act and you don't do it immediately, it's like reporting suspected child abuse. If you see a child being abused or neglected and you do nothing and wait a month until you have a fight with the person who is the abuser, that creates a suspicion that it's vindictive and there's a motive to lie.
Of course.
Because it wasn't done immediately.
And they sought another job from the same man after reporting him.
Right. You know, to the defendant's detriment, in my eyes, is if you have a big apartment complex and you have guys who were in the jewelry business and didn't make it, then came to work for you in your theater and really weren't very good at that either, then I wouldn't hire them to house paint.
Yeah.
You know,
that actually requires a skill.
Without any credentials. So I think that you have to be careful if you have a valuable piece of real estate.
Agreed.
Anyway, he can't slander him, and he did.
I think it all worked out how it was supposed to.
I hope so.
Marquis Marshall and Kai Booker are suing their former employer, Gary Zephyrin, for unpaid wages.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2071, Booker Marshall versus Zephyrin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Zephyrin?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Zephyrin, you're being sued by these two people because they say they worked for you delivering packages, I believe, of auto parts. Is that right?
Yes, Judge.
And you didn't pay them. That's simple. You're in the auto parts business or just the delivery business?
Just the delivery business.
For how long?
For about a year.
Explain the business to me, since you're not in the auto parts business, just the delivery business. I have to understand the process and keep it short.
The process is I go to the store, pick up the car parts.
Go to what store?
Hyundai or Toyota.
So you go to the manufacturer?
Yes.
Or the dealership?
The dealership.
And get the part?
And get the part and deliver.
And you take them to independent garages that fix cars?
Yes.
Okay, now I understand. Your business is, you're sort of a middle person between your local auto repair shop and the manufacturer who manufactures those parts or its dealer.
Yes, that's correct.
You don't make a markup on the part, you're just paid for your delivery service. Is that right?
Yes. I do not pay for the parts. All I do is drive and deliver the parts.
So the part has already been ordered and paid for?
Yes.
By the garage, by ABC Garage?
Yes.
They just send you to expedite the delivery?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much do you get paid for each delivery?
Well, it's not by each delivery. At this particular contract, it was between $120 and $160 a day.
And you said that this particular contract, what contract is that?
This is the car parts contract. Before the car parts, delivering the car parts, I was delivering packages.
But this operation was just car parts?
Yes, it was.
Now, at some point, these two people, how many vans do you have that deliver the parts?
Currently, I have one van.
What were they using to deliver the parts?
The van that I have.
And what did you do?
I worked in my 9 to 5.
You had a different job?
Yes.
What kind of job did you have?
I work at the Navy Yard.
So this is sort of a side gig?
A hobby, I would say.
Well, a hobby, $120, $160 a day is a nice hobby.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. And so based upon what you told me before, both of these people did in fact deliver parts using your van to various ABC garages.
They also used it for personal use too, yes.
I don't care, but they used it because you didn't use it. You were doing your day job, according to you.
Yes.
And this was a side gig where these two people were working during the day to deliver the parts.
Mr. Marshall was working during the day.
Okay, let's just say Mr. Marshall.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Marshall sort of contracted with Miss Booker, or did you?
Mr. Marshall did.
You contracted with her. You agreed with her that you would split up this delivery. You would do it a couple of days and she would do it a couple of days.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, so you had no direct agreement with him. Miss Booker, look at me. My question is, did you have a direct agreement or ever meet or discuss salary with the defendant?
No, I did not discuss.
And you can sit down.
Okay.
Because you have to have some sort of an agreement with someone in order to sue them. You had no agreement with him. Whatever agreement you had with him, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
And am I correct, Mr. Marshall, that you were supposed to be paid, according to you, a certain amount per day to make these deliveries? You decided you wanted to work 3 days a week and she would work 2?
Yes.
That's what I thought I read. Okay. How much was the defendant supposed to pay you a day?
$80, Judge.
So you had a deal for between $120 and $160 a day. You were paying him $80. You were working your day job. And Sue, you were either going to get $40 or $80, depending upon the work that was done, right?
Correct.
And you were going to get that as a result of his work.
Yes.
Perfect. Now, this is what you say. You say that you all decided to go into business together. You bought this van. You paid for the insurance. He was going to work and make the deliveries. I'm telling you what you wrote.
Okay.
And if you have a problem with that, you'll tell me in a minute.
Okay.
He was supposed to work, make the deliveries, and not get paid until you paid off all your expenses, your startup expenses, the van, your insurance. Didn't you say that to me?
Yes,
Or maybe I'm thinking about another case.
I did say
You did say that to me.
I just wasn't correct, the we, because I bought the van and I paid up all the stuff.
I said you paid. I didn't say he paid. You paid the van. You paid for the insurance. He was going to drive. He says you were supposed to pay him $80 a day to do that because you had a full-time job. You were making your money. Your defense to it is that that was not the agreement. The agreement was that he would work for free until all the expenses were paid off that you advanced for the little business.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How much was the van?
$2,000.
So it was an old van.
Yes.
And how many months did you work at this job before you had a kerfuffle with him?
A year and 3 months.
Is that correct, sir, that he worked a year and 3 months?
It seems more about close to a year to me.
And when you say you worked for a year, was that 52 weeks a year?
Yes.
5 days a week?
Yes. Sometimes on Saturday.
From when to when?
I would work, depending
on... No, from what month and year to what month and year?
January 2021 until March or April 2022.
And in that year plus, how much money did you make? If you kept records of the days that you worked and how many hours you worked and how much you were supposed to be paid, then I could look at that. But I can't do this. This is ridiculous.
Judge, may I explain?
You can try, but you're going to be unsuccessful, Mr. Marshall, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to try.
And later today.
He did, in fact, bring you a truck.
He didn't.
Never brought you a truck?
Never brought me the truck, never returned my money, anything.
Oh.
Marquis Marshall and Kai Booker claim their former employer, Gary Zephyrin, owes for unpaid contractor work.
Okay. In that year plus, how much money did you make?
Judge, it's a tough question because Mr. Zephyrin never paid me what he was supposed to pay me. He always came up with an excuse or a reason why.
I want to know how much money you made in that year.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Well,
Judge.
Then I can't help you. I have to know how much money he paid you, and I'm going to figure out from how much money he paid you, because even if I buy his defense, the van was only $2,000. So you have to sit down and figure out how much, unless you know, how much did you pay him?
Around $320 a week.
What do you mean around? I mean, you're a businessman.
He did not work 5 days a week. He's saying he worked 4 to 6 days a week. All he worked was 3 to 5 days a week.
I assume you were paid in cash?
Yes.
But you were paid during that year?
Yes.
Give me an idea in thousands how much you were paid.
Around $20,000.
$20,000?
Yes, Judge.
Around?
Yes, Judge.
So he did, in fact, pay you?
He didn't pay me everything he was supposed to pay me, Judge.
Well, how am I supposed to figure that out, sir? How am I supposed to figure that out? You keep records of what you delivered? Does he keep records? He doesn't have to prove your case. You have to prove your case.
Yes, Judge.
So do you keep records of when you worked and when you were paid?
Yes, I keep records of when I worked, Judge, but I did not keep records of what I was paid because we're always arguing. He never paid me the full $700.
That's not the reason you don't keep records. I'm sorry, Mr. Marshall. If you kept records of the days that you worked and how many hours you worked and how much you were supposed to be paid, then I could look at that. And I can ask him, and I assume he's a businessman. He would have the same records, and there may be a dispute, but I can't do this. This is ridiculous.
Judge, may I explain?
You can try, but you're going to be unsuccessful, Mr. Marshall, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to try.
I appreciate it, Your Honor. Mr. Zephyrin was my friend. We went to the same high school, played on the same high school basketball team. I was the MVP, he was the team captain. Recently, his health has been declining. Because his health has been declining a year ago, I went to Mr. Zephyrin and I said, I'm a private contractor and I have different contracts with places. I think that you should do private contracts so you can spend more time with your kids and your wife. I apologize, but I'm emotional.
Well, don't get emotional.
I used to love
Mr. Marshall.
This gentleman.
Mr. Marshall, what I'm telling you is don't get emotional. This is not...
Okay.
It's a sad thing that you know each other for a long time, I hear, and that it's come down to a case in court. But you have to understand that in order for me to make a judgment, I need facts and information. And it's not as if you're saying to me that you delivered packages, which he acknowledges, and you were never paid. What you say is that you were shortchanged.
Yes, Judge.
And you have to be able to show me that.
I have the agreement of Mr. Zephyrin agreeing to pay me the $80 a day, and we came out with a pay scale.
Just a second. That's okay. I have to see when you worked and what you were paid. How am I supposed to figure out what it is that he owes you?
Because we both know that he only paid me $300 instead of the $700. We both know that.
Well, he paid you $20,000, so that's not true. According to you, he paid you $20,000. So if what you're saying that he paid you $300 and he owed you $700, is that what you're saying to me?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the last period of time that you worked for him?
Yes.
Okay, so that last period of time was when to when? Give me the month, give me the day.
January to March this year.
From January to March?
Yes, Judge.
Of 2022?
Yes, Judge.
You work and you claim you were owed $700. That's what you just said. Is that correct?
I apologize for the miscommunication, Judge. He only paid me $3 when he was supposed to pay me $7.
Just a second. You're not paying attention to me, sir. I said your claim is that he owed you $700.
He owes me more than $700.
No. What you said was he owed me $700 and he only paid me $300. Could you read that back?
Yes.
Could you read that?
Yes, Judge. You're correct, Judge.
Okay, then we don't have to read it back. That's why I have Whitney. You said he owed me $7, he only paid me $3, which means he owes you $400.
Correct, Judge.
And that was from a January to a March.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Do you have any records of that, sir?
I paid him in cash, so I don't have any records of the payments that I was paying him. Mr. Marshall, he really never wanted me to keep records.
Okay, don't tell me what he wants. It's your business. Don't be foolish, sir. Did you have a dispute with him over this $400?
I did. We had many disputes.
Okay. Did you, in those disputes, refer to a part that got misdelivered by either the plaintiff or the person who he subcontracted with that caused you to lose a customer?
Yes.
Okay. And was that the reason that you didn't give him the $400? Just listen to my question. You had a dispute after all this time over a part, according to your answer, that was misdelivered to a customer.
Yes.
Which caused you, according to you, to lose the customer. I don't know that. But that you indicated was the reason that this arrangement went south. So my question to you is that why you didn't pay him the $400?
No, it's not. He didn't return my van.
Oh, so the reason you didn't pay him the $400 that you acknowledged that you owe him was because he kept your van.
And my contract was canceled due to Cab Booker.
Okay. Did you get your van back?
Yes, I did.
How many days later?
2 days later. After I threatened to call the police.
Okay, you owe him the $400, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $400. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
You can't keep somebody's van for 48 hours and still expect your money.
He's lying about the fact that we stole the van and that we had it for those 2 days.
I think it was really bad that he's suing me over this. We've been friends since high school.
Document everything that you do when you do it. That would make better sense.
But hey, things happen. He got a new girlfriend and things happen.
Not a difficult situation. If you choose to pay an employee in cash, you have to keep records. Both parties should have kept some sort of records. Otherwise, what they were asking me to do was guess. This defendant actually made it easy for me because without his statement, I would have dismissed the case. He said the reason he kept the $400 because the plaintiff did not return his van right away, kept it for 2 days. Well, that's sort of retaliatory. How do you fix $400 as
cost for keeping
as a cost?
van?
You know, that's ridiculous. That's self-help. Keep records,
You should.
especially if you want to come to court.
Exactly.
Armando Rodriguez is suing his former tenant, Samuel Gastelum, for an assault.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2035, Rodriguez versus Gastelum.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
what kind of a premises do you live in, sir?
It's a 4-bedroom house.
And I see here that you rent out some of the rooms in order to assist with your mortgage.
That's correct.
How many rooms do you rent out?
3.
And who lives in the other?
Right now it's Kathleen Meister, and then I have 2 other roommates.
And you use one room.
Correct.
When did you rent a room to the defendant?
It was January 22.
And what was the rent that you were charging him?
$750 a month.
When he came to you, did he have a dog?
No.
When did you move in?
About late January.
Give me a day.
22nd.
And you moved in alone?
Yes, ma'am.
Paid your rent on time?
Yes, ma'am.
February, paid your rent on time?
Yes, ma'am.
Lived there alone?
Yes, ma'am.
What about March?
Did I live there alone in March also? Yes, ma'am.
When did you get a dog?
I've had my dog
No, when did you get a dog that you brought into the house?
April 22nd, 23rd.
So several months after you moved in. Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
And before you moved the dog in, did you have a discussion with the plaintiff?
Yes, ma'am.
Just prior to moving in with the dog. And what was the discussion that you had with the plaintiff?
That if it was okay if I were to bring my dog that I had in Alaska, since I had him since he was about 6-7 weeks.
And where had he been in the last 2 months?
He was still in Alaska, staying with close friends, and I flew to Seattle, shipped my truck and all my belongings to Seattle, and drove here. From Seattle, my dog, the person who was watching him, drove from Alaska to Montana, and had gone to Montana to pick him up.
So you asked Mr. Rodriguez if it was okay if you brought your dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he say?
Yes.
Did he say anything else?
He said, just clean
Now
up.
look at me.
He said,
Did he say anything else
clean
other
up
than...
after the dog, make sure that the dogs don't fight, and just take care of him.
Okay. Nothing about him staying out of the house?
He said he wouldn't prefer him to be around the house, but he would not. It would be okay for him to be in my room.
In your room?
Mm-hmm. The dog stayed with me in that room a few nights, and he knowingly knew about it.
No, I don't want to know what he knew. I want to know what your arrangement was. So your arrangement with him, according to you, now I haven't asked him, but according to you, is that you asked him if you could bring your dog. He said okay for the dog to stay outside, but could stay in your room.
He said he didn't want him in the living area. My dog could also be in the garage or
in your room. And was everything okay in April when you brought the dog?
Yeah, everything was
What
fine.
about May?
May, I was looking for a new place. I was homeless because I had spent 5 days in jail.
Oh, I'm talking about before you went to jail, sir. Before you went to jail, because this case is about an assault, which is what the plaintiff is claiming. Plaintiff is claiming that you assaulted him in the home, and that took place on April 30th. That was shortly after your dog arrived.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the dog was the reason for the altercation.
A part of
because
the reason, but that's
in
not how it started.
February, March, and up until April, the end of April, when the dog was there, I see no evidence here that there was any difficulty.
You're right.
Fair statement? Yeah. So that the problem arose when the dog came. Now, this woman's name is Kathleen. She's interspersed in both the complaint and the answer in this case. She had a cat. Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
He had a cat. And it was a house cat.
Yes, ma'am.
Plaintiff has a dog.
A few dogs.
And they live in the house.
Yes, they stay in the garage and in the backyard, yes.
Garage and backyard, do they stay in the house?
They do not go inside that.
Okay, so his dogs stay outside, and he said to you, according to you, your dogs can stay outside in the garage and in your room.
Yes.
In April, did your dog get out of your room or into the house?
Yes.
Yes. On what date?
April 30th, because I was allowing him inside to go to my room.
On April 30th, the dog was where?
In the backyard, but I was bringing him inside to come to my room.
You were bringing him from outside to come into your room.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't asked him. He says in his papers that the dog was supposed to remain outside. You were bringing him inside to your room.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it is your claim here that it is an emotional support dog.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also had at least a couple of months where you left the dog in Alaska.
With
right?
people I trust.
I don't care people who you trust or not. If you needed an emotional support animal, the emotional support animal has to travel with you. So don't show me a certificate. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, did that certificate that you have come from a psychiatrist?
No.
No. Did it come from a psychologist?
No.
Did it come from any doctor who was treating you?
There was a doctor's note, yes.
Was a doctor who was treating you?
Yes.
Yes. Not a psychiatrist?
Not a psychiatrist, no.
Not a psychologist?
Not a psychologist.
And you took this note and you had to send it to somebody over the internet?
Yes.
And then they sent you a certificate?
Yes, and with an ID.
That's what I got. Okay, so now you're bringing the dog on April 30th from the backyard into the house, and?
He attempts to grab the dog.
No. Is the dog on a leash?
No, he's very well.
Just a sec. Is the dog on a leash?
No.
Were you holding the dog by the collar?
Yes.
And now you're taking the dog from outside to inside. What did he say to you?
No dogs in the house.
Because that's what he had said to you before. You can have your dog, but no dogs in the house. I want to tell you something. That's what I believe. So he said no dogs in the house, and you said to him,
I'm going to bring my dog into my room.
But when you asked him if you could bring the dog to the house, there is no question in my mind that he said to you, bring the dog to the house, but the dog doesn't come into the house.
He stayed in my room a few nights prior to that.
I don't
and
care.
He already
Listen to me.
approved
That's what the arrangement was, sir.
Okay.
The arrangement was not what you told me before. The arrangement was with him. Yes, you can bring the dog to the house. I will let you do that. But the dog has to stay either in the garage or outside like my dogs.
Okay.
And you said, in effect, screw you. I'm bringing my dog, and I'm bringing my dog into my room.
In effect.
You're the tenant. That was the agreement. You can have the dog, but the dog must not be in the house. That's what your landlord told you. You brought the dog from Alaska, and at the very beginning, you brought the dog into your room.
Mm-hmm.
When had you decided that you were going to breach the agreement with him?
The very first night I went to receive my dog, he stayed at the house inside my room with me.
So the very first night that you brought him, you decided to breach the agreement that
He
you
had
had.
knowingly said it was okay.
Did you tell him it was okay?
Never. I have texts.
I'd like to see it.
I have to scroll back.
Scroll
quite
to
a
wherever
while.
you have to scroll. Scroll down to the creation. I don't care. I have all day here. Nobody is hungry.
I'm a
Still
little
have
hungry.
2 more cases to do before lunch. Everybody gets a little testy, including me.
I don't have the text. I do not have the text.
Yeah, good. That's what I thought. Okay. It wasn't on the 30th that the dog got loose in the house. It was sometime before that, maybe a day or so before that. On the 30th was a day, sir, that you got locked out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Is
Your
not
Honor.
an answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And what time of the day was it that you got locked out of the house?
2 o'clock after middle afternoon, late afternoon.
And according to what I read, you went to the back of the house to let yourself into the house, and you got into an altercation with Kathleen. Absolutely, she shouldn't have put her hands on and slapped you because you were fresh. Because you wouldn't be fresh to me, right?
Fresh?
Fresh. That's what you say to a child. Fresh. How old are you?
65.
How old are you?
25.
That's fresh.
Armando Rodriguez claims his former tenant, Samuel Gastelum, is responsible for damages from an assault. Samuel says he was the one assaulted and falsely arrested.
Now, you got into an altercation with Kathleen.
Not quite, Your Honor.
Well, tell me what happened.
I had been outside, I went out the garage, and I was playing a time-sensitive game on my Xbox. So I was going back to the room, and I knocked on the garage door. No one answered, knocked on it a few times, pounded. Then I went back around and knocked on the sliding glass door a few times, one of the few times. Finally, Kathleen comes up and answers the door. At that point, I've been out there for about 10 minutes. So I'm upset. I'm like, who locked me out? Who locked the door? She gets completely defensive. She says, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And I'm like, I'm asking who it was, because Armando and I had discussed.
Because you're on a time-sensitive video game.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
So you were on a time-sensitive video game.
Something
How old are you?
25 years old.
Okay, so now you're on a time-sensitive video game and somebody either on purpose or accidentally locked the door, and you think it's Kathleen.
No, I did not accuse anyone. I just asked was who locked me out, because I had been locked out earlier that week, earlier by Armando.
Just a second, did you have a key to the house?
On my...
No. Did you have...
I had a front door key, not to the garage door, not to the sliding door.
But you had a front door key.
Yes, Your Honor, but there's a gate. There's a big fence, and I didn't have a key to the gate that was locked.
You couldn't get into the house, even with your front door key?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, after you had a conversation with her, there was no physicality between the two of you?
Not at that moment. But once Armando came around the corner, he's like, it was me who locked you out. So me and him...
Now, just a second. He said, it was me that locked you out. Did he say he did that on purpose, or was
it was an accident, is what
did he
said.
say? Okay, so he said it was me that locked you out. It was an accident.
It wasn't the first time.
It's not.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's yes. First, second, I've locked my children out of the house many times. Sometimes on purpose.
I'm not his
sometimes
child.
by accident.
I'm his roommate.
It doesn't make any difference. So he said to you, it was an accident, and you said to him,
it's happened before.
And he said to you,
those were accidents also.
Okay, and he said those were accidents also.
Yes.
And you said to him...
I said you need to be more attentive, more aware. If someone had just walked out and left the door unlocked, you should probably go and see if anyone's out there before you turn around and lock the door.
And he said?
He said he apologized.
So he said, I apologize.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Throughout that whole conversation, me and him are arguing
Okay,
back and forth.
At the end, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I apologize.
It's not so clear-cut.
It's at the end of this back and forth. You should have been more careful. You should look to see who's at the door. You've done it before. I'm sorry. It was an accident. I apologize. Now I haven't apologized. And
in the middle of that altercation, Kathleen kept butting in. She said, you don't talk to me like that. You don't talk to me like that. I said, I wasn't even talking to you. I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm talking to Armando. I said, mind your own business. She said, oh, you don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me what to do. I said, mind your own business. She said, say that to me one more time. And I said, mind your own business. She walks across the hall and she slaps me across the face, and Armando grabs her hand right after she smacks me. And instead of retaliating aggressively or any type of thing, I call the police. Immediately call the police. And while we're waiting there for the police, that's when I get the apology from Armando. That's when he's like, okay, let's make a deal. Let's try to work this out before the police get there. The police get there, they ask me what had happened.
And you say that this older woman slapped you because you were fresh.
The face.
Because you were fresh.
No, because
she shouldn't have put her hands on and slapped you because you were fresh. Because you wouldn't be fresh to me, right?
Fresh?
Fresh. That's what you say to a child. Fresh. You were being fresh. And she should not have put her hands on you. Would I have called the police about that? Maybe.
Except I am not a child.
Just a second.
I'm not a child. I'm not related to these people.
I just said to you, you were being fresh. How old are you?
65.
How old are you?
25.
That's fresh. That's fresh, because first you accused her of locking you out.
I didn't accuse her.
Yeah. Okay. So after she slapped you, the police arrived. They left. She said, she slapped you. Yes. You have marks. You have cuts. You have bruises. You have abrasions. No. They left. Well, what did you expect when you called the police for them to arrest her? What did you want them to do, sir?
Was I supposed to retaliate? How was I supposed to retaliate? Was I supposed to hit her back?
Just a second. No.
Okay, then what was I supposed to do?
I'm not telling you what to do.
Okay.
I'm just asking you, sir, did you expect them, when you called the police, to arrest Kathleen because she slapped you?
No, I expected there to be consequences for her assaulting me.
What? So
I don't know what
did
the
you think?
consequences
So
were.
what did you think that they should do?
Whatever they feel was right. Whatever is justice.
Okay. Now let's move on. So now the police are gone, and
I go speak to Armando. I asked why he sacrificed his integrity for lying for Kathleen, for saying that she didn't slap him, because he told the police he witnessed no such event. He didn't see nothing, even though he was standing right there, grabbed her hand. Kathleen says she didn't do it, and the police came up to me before they left. They said, they're telling me something else. I just straight up, I just don't believe you. I just like, okay, well, what else can I do? I go to Armando, and I'm like, why would you sacrifice your integrity? Why would you lie to the police? Why would you let another roommate physically assault me and just no consequences whatsoever? And at that point is when I tried to bring my dog inside and just go straight to my room.
Just a second. So at that time, after this hot spot is over,
it got heated again.
Yep, got heated again. Your reaction was childish, and you said, I'm going to get my dog that I was told not to bring in the house, and I'm going to bring my dog in the house.
I was going to my...
Just a second. I don't care if you were going to Pluto. Your reaction after this was, they can't tell me what to do. I'm going outside and I'm going to bring my dog inside. He'll let you bring the dog to the house, but the dog can't come in the house, stays outside with his dogs. There's only one animal in the house, and that's Kathleen's house cat. That's it. So you went to bring your dog from outside to in the house.
Yes, Your Honor.
In violation of the agreement that you had with your landlord. After the police had come, I just want you to realize what's going on.
Oh,
You know, I just want you to realize that they don't actually keep me here because I'm 5'6" and gorgeous. I understand what happened when you were disappointed that Kathleen had slapped you like a child because you were fresh. And she's not your mother, and she had no right, even your mother doesn't have a right to put their hands on you.
Correct.
But you got slapped, not injured, no broken jaw, no broken skin. Police didn't see anything because if they did, they would have arrested somebody. And they left. And you were royally miffed. Because you got locked out of the house for which she apologized, you missed your time-sensitive video game. Now, I'm not sure what that is, because I'm not a 25-year-old idiot that plays video games during the day.
Armando Rodriguez is accusing his former roommate, Samuel Gastelum, of breaking their rental agreement and assaulting him. Samuel claims he was falsely arrested after Armando lied to the police.
Now, several things had happened that day, right? You got locked out and you were playing a time-sensitive video game.
Yes, Your Honor.
And because you got locked out of the house for which she apologized, you missed your time-sensitive video game. Now, I'm not sure what that is, because I'm not a 25-year-old idiot that plays video games during the day. When I was 25 years old, I actually worked. I did, I actually worked. I know that may seem foreign to you, but I did actually work. And so after all of this altercation took place, you said, now I'm going to show him. Now I'm going to bring my dog into the house. And then there was another altercation. Second one.
Yes.
That's the one we're talking about. By the way, maybe I'm being terribly unkind to you, sir. How do you support yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Pretty foreign, I know.
For whom?
I'm a cultivator.
You work 5 days a week?
Yes, Your Honor. And in my free time,
What do you
I like to
cultivate?
play video
What do you cultivate?
Marijuana, cannabis.
How long have you worked for them?
Since March, so about 5 months.
Prior to that, you were in Alaska.
Prior to January, I was in Alaska. Before March, before getting the job at the cultivation facility for cannabis, I was helping my uncles do concrete. So working isn't very foreign to me, as you might see.
Prior to March, you were working with your uncles in concrete.
Yes,
Where?
Your Honor. In Victorville, in California.
You were working, you were working for your uncle prior to March, getting a job as a cultivator. And what I want to know is, how long had you been separated from your emotional support dog?
I spent 4 months away from him. And those 4 months were from January to April.
January, February, March, April. And what were you doing in Alaska?
I was born and raised in Alaska.
Alaska is not a that's not a job, sir. What were you doing in Alaska?
I was, for the last 6 months of my time in Alaska, I was a bud tender.
Okay, tell me what happened after the dog incident.
Well, the dog comes in. He says that he's not going to follow house rules anymore. And he says as of right now, he's going to do what he wants to do. So he just gets the dog from the backyard and he comes inside the house. And I feel that it's my responsibility to enforce the house rules. So I physically grab his dog and I move the dog from inside the house to the backyard. That happens once. He gets the dog and then he physically puts him back in the house.
Where in the house?
This is, you could say, the kitchen area. So now I basically attempt to repeat what I did the first time. So I physically grab the dog a second time and I'm now physically taking him out, at which point he gets from behind me and he puts me into a chokehold and I black out. I come to I look for my phone. I find my phone, dial 911. Police show up like in maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm still trying to get.
And that's the assault that you are referring to
Yes, ma'am.
today. Did the EMS check you out?
I was taken to the hospital.
May I see the report?
Yeah, I got a report, and then I have the bills associated with with.
Was Kathleen a witness to this?
She saw.
No,
like,
don't tell me what she saw. Was she a witness to any part of that?
Yeah,
Yes or no?
yeah.
Okay. Would you step up, please? Tell me at what point you came in on this altercation.
When they were arguing about the dog.
The first time or the second time? Or you don't know whether...
I don't really know.
Were you a witness to any of the physical confrontation that resulted in Mr. Rodriguez going to the hospital?
I knew that they...
Don't tell me what you knew.
Okay.
It's what you saw.
Okay, what I saw was Armando trying to put the dog back outside, because he's a big pit bull, right? And then he would put him out, and then Samuel would bring him back in. And then the last time, Armando was putting him back outside, and Samuel came behind Armando. And what I did was I left and went and called the police, because I was afraid he was going to get hurt.
All right, sir. Now tell me your version of those events.
Could I show her statement from the previous court?
No, I want you to first tell me your version of the events.
So I let Apollo inside. My dog's name is Apollo, and he's going to grab Apollo to let him out. And we're both kind of grabbing Apollo, pulling him, we're both kind of fighting over him a little bit. As I'm pulling him inside more, Armando starts grabbing me. And so we get into this altercation, and we're like wrestling back and forth.
Just a second. He's trying to get your pit bull outside, and at the same time he's grabbing you? Is that the...
No, we were both grabbing the dog.
So you were trying to keep the dog inside, and he was trying to put the dog outside?
I was trying to take him to my room, yes. Take him.
You were trying to take him to your room. He was trying to put him outside.
Yes.
And?
As we're both kind of fighting for the dog, he grabs me. He lets go of the dog and then grabs me.
How did he grab you?
He grabs me by the arm, and then he like starts tugging a little bit, and so we're wrestling. We just start wrestling, and it gets a little bit more violent. And I go to restrain him, and he's hitting me. He's hitting me from with his arms. He's trying to scratch me, and I just restrained him until I felt not threatened no more. I released him. I get up. I grab my dog. I go to the room. And I call the police.
Mm-hmm. Do you have your medical records that day?
They would not take me. They didn't.
Not they would not take you. Do you have your medical records for that day?
I have my arrest report that says apparently they didn't.
May I see the arrest report, please?
They refused to take pictures.
Don't tell me what they didn't do. I can read. Do you have medical insurance, sir?
No.
None. Okay, so you had an emergency room CT scan that was $8,640.62. The other bill for that day was for radiology, which was $518. This is the emergency room, which was $1,109. Okay, well, that takes us over this court's limit jurisdictionally. Now, you, sir, subsequently had a hearing with regard to this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you testify, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you testify, sir?
I did.
At the end of that hearing, was there a restraining order granted or not?
It was granted.
For how long? Do you have a copy of that?
I have a copy.
It was a year.
So a judge, like me, probably not as good looking, after hearing, so I don't have to hear it, all of the evidence, the judge found that there was more evidence than not that you assaulted the plaintiff and granted the plaintiff an order of protection for 1 year. After that happened, you were still in the house.
After the assault or after the hearing?
After the assault.
After the assault, I was arrested and
then you came back to the house.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's what I asked. You were still in the house, but you're no longer in the house.
No.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished here. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
He's a liar, and I told the truth, and I won the case.
I didn't aggressively attack him.
That was the rules that I had set. My dogs don't even come in the house.
I defended myself and my dog.
I think there was some genuine confusion on the defendant's behalf about the term fresh.
When I said to him, you were fresh to an older person?
Exactly. You know, he had a little bit of an attitude, a little young gun attitude, and the older woman did not appreciate it. So I am very familiar with the term fresh, but I think he was a little confused, but 100% fits the definition of fresh.
It was interesting. The other thing was I didn't seem appalled at the fact that he was doing time-sensitive video games, because I actually understand that from some of our grandchildren.
They take the games very seriously.
Very seriously.
And I could see how missing out on a time-sensitive game could raise an even heated moment even hotter. So.
Especially someone who needs an emotional support pit bull.
Sit down, sit down, sit down. शाबाश, उठना नहीं है अभी। जब मैं कहूँगा फिर उठना। शाबाश, शाबाश, शाबाश। अच्छा बच्चा ना, जब मैं कहूँगा फिर उठ के आना है। ठीक है? चलो, चला जाओ, आ जाओ, चल जा, चल उठ, चल जा, खा ले अब, चल जा ना, चला जा, आ इधर आ, इधर आ। इधर आ मेरा पुत्र, इधर आ ये ले, आजा नाराज हो गया। अच्छा नाराज तो ना ये ले ये ले मेरा बच्चा। हाँ जी ये नाराज हो गया। लो और देखो नाराज हो गया, कह रहा है कि जब मैं आना था उस टाइम मुझे क्यों मना किया, अब नहीं मैंने आना। ये तो साढ़े काके का हाल है, रुसता बड़ी जल्दी है ये फौरन रुस के बैठ जाता है। मेरी तो बात बर्दाश्त करता ही नहीं है ना, कहता ना तूने मना किया तो किया क्यों। चल उठ जा, उठ मेरा पुत्र, चला इधर आ मेरा बच्चा, उठ जा, आ गया जी, आ गया। चल आ जा, और मैं सदके जाऊं। और ये तो मेरा शहजादा है, ये मेरी जान है। चल खा ले, जल्दी से खा ले, सारा खा ले, तुम नहीं खाना, ठीक है? ये तुम्हारे लिए। लो जी मान गया, आज जल्दी मान गया, वरना इतनी जल्दी ये मानता नहीं होता। ये रुस जाए तो बस फिर 4-4 दिन लगा देता है, लेकिन अभी उसको डांटा नहीं था इतना, वो फौरन ही बैठ गया था। उसको मैंने कहा बैठ जा, तो आराम से बैठ गया था। तो ये है ट्रेनिंग, इसको कहते हैं ट्रेनिंग, और प्यार से ट्रेनिंग। कोई हाथ में डंडे सोटे से नहीं मैंने बिठाया, कोई डर खौफ से नहीं बिठाया उसको कि भी बैठे इसको डरा के बिठाओ, तो ऐसी बात नहीं है। तो ये ट्रेनिंग है, प्यार मोहब्बत से पाला हुआ है इसको, इस वजह से ये बातें मानते हैं। तो ये ले जी, ये थी मेरी आज की वीडियो। अगर आपको अच्छी लगे इसको लाइक और फॉलो जरूर कीजिएगा। नेक्स्ट वीडियो में मिलते हैं, बल्कि अस्सलामुअलैकुम एवरीवन। तो कैसे हैं सब दोस्त, मैं हूं मियां साकिब, वाइल्ड लाइफ लवर। तो मुझे आज व्हाट्सएप और फेसबुक की तरफ से ग्रीन टिक मिल गया। ओहो ये क्या हो गया, बस रिलैक्स दोनों मेरे टाइगर को दोनों पड़ गए। अच्छा जी, मुझे व्हाट्सएप और फेसबुक की तरफ से ग्रीन टिक मिल गया, और मेरा व्हाट्सएप चैनल वेरीफाइड हो गया, जिसको आपने सर्च कैसे करना है, व्हाट्सएप की अपडेट के ऊपर जाना है और वहां जाके मियां साकिब लिखना है, जहां पे आपको बड़ा ही एक्सक्लूसिव और यूनिक कंटेंट मिलेगा, जो कि आपको किसी और चैनल पे नहीं मिलेगा, जिसमें मैं आपको शेरों और टाइगर्स के दरमियान 5-5 शेरों के दरमियान मैं इकट्ठा खेलता हुआ मैं इनके दरमियान नजर आऊंगा। मैं इनको अपने बच्चों की तरफ पालता हूँ, मैंने इनको अपने बच्चों की तरफ रखा है। जैसे कि वो देखिए आप, ये शेरनी और ये है शेरनी और ये है टाइगर, ये इकट्ठे नहीं रहते, लेकिन मैंने इनको इकट्ठा रखा हुआ है प्यार मोहब्बत से। तो जल्दी से जाएं, मेरे व्हाट्सएप चैनल को सर्च करें, मियां साकिब को सर्च करें और जल्दी से इसको ग्रो अप कर दें और एंजॉय करें। अल्लाह हाफिज। क्या बात है, मेरा बच्चा क्या रहा है, मेरा बच्चा क्या रहा है। अस्सलामुअलैकुम एवरीवन। तो कैसे हैं सब दोस्त, मैं हूं मियां साकिब, वाइल्ड लाइफ लवर। तो मुझे आज व्हाट्सएप और फेसबुक की तरफ से ग्रीन टिक मिल गया। ओहो ये क्या हो गया, बस रिलैक्स दोनों मेरे टाइगर को दोनों पड़ गए। अच्छा जी, मुझे व्हाट्सएप और फेसबुक की तरफ से ग्रीन टिक मिल गया, और मेरा व्हाट्सएप चैनल वेरीफाइड हो गया है, जिसको आपने सर्च कैसे करना है, व्हाट्सएप की अपडेट के ऊपर जाना है और वहां जाके मियां साकिब लिखना है, जहां पे आपको बड़ा ही एक्सक्लूसिव और यूनिक कंटेंट मिलेगा जो कि आपको किसी और चैनल पे नहीं मिलेगा, जिसमें मैं आपको शेरों और टाइगर्स के दरमियान 5-5 शेरों के दरमियान मैं इकट्ठा खेलता हुआ मैं इनके दरमियान नजर आऊंगा। मैं इनको अपने बच्चों की तरफ पालता हूं, मैंने इनको अपने बच्चों की तरफ रखा है। जैसे कि वो देखिए आप, ये शेरनी और ये है शेरनी और ये है टाइगर, ये इकट्ठे नहीं रहते, लेकिन मैंने इनको इकट्ठा रखा हुआ है प्यार मोहब्बत से। तो जल्दी से जाएं, मेरे व्हाट्सएप चैनल को सर्च करें, मियां साकिब को सर्च करें और जल्दी से इसको ग्रो अप कर दें और एंजॉय करें। अल्लाह हाफिज। क्या बात है, पीछे 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 बदतमीजी नहीं करनी। इधर आ इधर आ इधर आ मेरे पास आ जा, तू पास आ। Sit down. No, sit down. 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 शाबाश, उठना नहीं है अभी, जब मैं कहूँगा फिर उठना। शाबाश शाबाश शाबाश, अच्छा बच्चा है ना, जब मैं कहूँगा फिर उठ के आना है, ठीक है? चलो चला जा, आ जाओ, चल जा, चल उठ उठ उठ, चल जा, खा ले अब, चल जा ना, चला जा, आ इधर आ इधर आ इधर आ मेरा पुत्र, इधर आ इधर आ, ये ले आ जा, नाराज हो गया। अच्छा नाराज तो ना, ये ले ये ले ये ले मेरा बच्चा, हाँ जी, क्या नाराज हो गया, लो और देखो नाराज हो गया, कह रहा है कि जब मैं आना था उस टाइम मुझे क्यों मना किया, अब नहीं मैंने आना। ये तो साढ़े काके का हाल है, रुसता बड़ी जल्दी है, ये फौरन रुस के बैठ जाता है, मेरी तो बात बर्दाश्त करता ही नहीं है ना, कहता ना तूने मना किया तो किया क्यों, चल उठ जा, उठ मेरा पुत्र, चला इधर आ मेरा बच्चा, उठ के आ गया जी, आ गया, चल आ जा, और मैं सदके जाऊं, और ये तो मेरा शहजादा है, ये मेरी जान है, चल खा ले जल्दी से खा ले, सारा खा ले, तुम नहीं खाना, ठीक है, ये तुम्हारे लिए। लो जी, मान गया आज, जल्दी मान गया, वरना इतनी जल्दी ये मानता नहीं होता, ये रुस जाए तो बस फिर 4-4 दिन लगा देता है, लेकिन अभी उसको डांटा नहीं था इतना, वो फौरन ही बैठ गया था, उसको मैंने कहा बैठ जा, तू आराम से बैठ गया था। तो ये है ट्रेनिंग, इसको कहते हैं ट्रेनिंग, और प्यार से ट्रेनिंग, कोई हाथ में डंडे सोटे से नहीं मैंने बिठाया, कोई डर खौफ से नहीं बिठाया उसको कि भी बैठे इसको डरा के बिठाओ, तो ऐसी बात नहीं है। तो ये ट्रेनिंग है, प्यार मोहब्बत से पाला हुआ है इसको, इस वजह से ये बातें मानते हैं। तो ये ले जी, ये थी मेरी आज की वीडियो, अगर आपको अच्छी लगे इसको लाइक और फॉलो जरूर कीजिएगा। नेक्स्ट वीडियो में मिलते हैं, बल्कि